Welcome back to the Haute Sugar Collective podcast. My name is Emerlie Miller, and here we have a special guest today, Aaron McInnis. So Aaron, he is someone that I met at IBIE Baking Expo recently in Vegas. So we're going to be talking about his live cake decorating competition that he just did, as well as his recipe book and more. So Aaron, can you give us some insight into who you are? Like, we want to get to know you.
Emerlie, thanks for having me. That's a loaded question. To sum me up in a nutshell is really hard. I've been in the industry for 15 years, and I followed your journey for many years, and I know you followed mine. And it was great to finally meet you in person, and many other people at IBIE. It was amazing. Right now, I am currently a baking and pastry arts instructor with a local college. So I developed and designed the program, and now I teach it. But I started my career as a nutritionist in healthcare. Didn't love it, but didn't hate it, or didn't hate it, but loved it. I don't know, something along those lines. But wasn't truly passionate about it. And my whole life, baking was that thing that just kept tearing at my heartstrings. And just had to, unfortunately, the switch came when my dad passed about 10 years ago now, at a very young age. And I realized, I can't be unhappy forever. And so I had to make the switch. So passion has certainly driven my trajectory within pastry, and I completely switched careers. But right now, between teaching full time and family, and I'm back in school doing an education degree, I run a bakery and I run a blog, and I have the book and doing the competitions. Life is hectic at best.
Sounds like it. Okay, so you already had a career that you were working on before this, and then you made the switch. You said you're back in school right now for education. Did you ever actually go to school for baking, or is that something that you're like self-taught and you're just so passionate about it?
So I think, like many, I'm self-taught, and it was because of the passion. Could my journey been easier had I gone to culinary school? Absolutely. Would there have been less blood, sweat, and tears? Maybe, but maybe not. Lots of blood and sweat, a few tears along the way. But I'm the type of person that learns by doing, and I'm the type of person that learns by failing. I actually accept and love failure. It's probably one of my favorite things. And people look at me very strange when I say that. Like, what do you mean you like to fail? But when I fail at something, it means I'm going to work harder to do better the next time, or it means I've just not done it right this time, and I know what not to do the next time. So I did a couple of career shifts kind of in my life. I do have a degree in nutrition, and I worked in healthcare. I've managed gyms. I've done that sort of stuff as well prior to. But I opened my first brick and mortar at 23 years old for a bakery. And I found myself laid off from the gym. I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't know what to do. There was a bakery for sale 2 kilometers down the road from my house. So I bought its assets. I bought its assets and the assets of another bakery. And at 23, opened the doors. But what I don't recommend is what we did. I bought a bakery, got married, bought a house, and we had a baby all within 6 months.
No.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot.
Oh
So
my gosh,
10 out of 10,
okay.
don't recommend that route. And would I change it? Absolutely not. I don't regret any decisions we've ever made. But it was a lot. It was a lot to handle. So I kept the brick and mortar for 2 years. The family was growing. We ended up having another, we were planning for a third child. And my family deserved better than that. I was spending 22-hour days at the bakery. Like, they never saw me. If they wanted me, they came to me, like that sort of thing. And I can vividly remember a time where literally 8 days went by where I never laid eyes on my children because they were in bed when I got home and they were in bed when I left for work in the morning. So it was like, this isn't healthy for our young growing family. So I shut that down, brought it home, and I ran a full-fledged bakery from my house. So we registered as a business in the house, had the second kitchen, the whole 9 yards. So it wasn't a cottage lot. It was actually registered as a bakery. Because I had the second space, and the business kind of grew from there, but I got burnt out. So that second summer of being home, I did 70 weddings by myself from May long weekend. So in Canada, May long weekend.
Terrible.
Yeah. So May long weekend for us is like the 20th ish of May. I don't know if it's the same in the States, until about Thanksgiving weekend. So that's our wedding season, May to October. Early October. Our Thanksgiving's early October. So from end of
that threw me off. I'm like, no, ours is early October.
Yeah. So our Thanksgiving's coming up next week. So end of end of May to early October, I did 70 weddings. And I
By
burned
yourself?
myself.
Did you have an assistant? Anything?
I had an assistant who simply did my dishes and my baking.
It's
No,
not
for
enough.
real. So when I hired her, I said, listen, when you come in here Monday morning, you're going to just face a mountain of dishes because I have 7 weddings this weekend and I don't have time to clean anything as I go. I'm going to be lucky enough to finish the orders. So she would just walk into crusted mounted dishes that she just had to spend a day washing dishes, which was wonderful because I didn't have to do that. And then she would do some of the prep of the baking and some icing prep. But I did all of the trimming, filling, decorating, and delivery of all weddings. So by the end of that summer, I was done. I shut down all of my social medias, canceled any future order, wasn't taking any more orders, and I put everything up for sale. Everything I owned for the bakery went up for sale. I said, I'm not doing this. I applied to go back to school. Burnout was real.
We've all been there.
Right.
So
I
many
was,
times.
but I had chalked it up. I was done. Like there was no going back. So we'll keep this story shortish. And anyway, I did
plenty of time. I want to hear about it.
I did go back to school for a hot minute. And then, but during the time of like deciding what I wanted my future to look like, I had applied for a job in healthcare to go back to my roots of nutrition. 3 or 4 months went by before I even heard from them. So I was already back in school. I get the call, I do the interview, I was offered the job. So I left school. I was back just add on to my nutrition degree. It was an advanced diploma piece to add on to it. So after talking to all of my faculty and the deans and all those things, they recommended, no, it's a Monday to Friday healthcare job. Like you'd be nuts not to take it. Go, like 25 years old, like take this Monday to Friday pensionable job. Like you're foolish. So I left school, went back to work. Really enjoyed what I was doing. So I worked in mental health and addictions, doing nutrition support for teenagers or for youth from the age 12 to 18. So, you know, the benefits of food and mood and how food plays a role in how we, you know, operate on a day-to-day basis and building healthy relationships around food because we all have an unhealthy relationship with food in some way, shape, or form. So it's just learning to understand food and how it can help or hinder us. And that was my role. And I loved it. I loved it. But then, unfortunately, my dad passed, like I said, about 10 years ago. And he was only 53 when he passed. And I really just had to sit back and think, like, is this really the life I want? Am I truly happy? Because as a couple years into healthcare started, as that job started, I started picking up the odd order again because I felt I was being tugged back into the world of baking. It never left me. The passion was still there, but I was doing it on my own terms. So I was not just taking orders for the sake of taking orders. I was taking orders that I wanted to take. Around the same time, I had applied for Spring Baking Championship and was accepted. I was one of the very first Canadians to ever make it on the show back in 2018. And now they have lots of Canadians since then, but I was the first Canadian ever to be cast on Spring Baking back then. So that kind of just then reignited my love for baking. So when I came back after filming that season, that was it. I was hooked. I was back into the baking game. I was done with healthcare. I needed to make a switch because I needed to be happy. My corporate job was making me miserable, and it was making my family miserable. I was becoming a very miserable person to live with, and I can openly admit that. So whatever had happened leading up to my, I guess, demise in corporate was I walked in the house. My wife used to work evenings, and I worked days, so we would never have to worry with childcare. So we flip-flopped. I walked in the door Friday evening. She was stood at the top of the stairs waiting. I can still see it and picture it, waiting for the car. And whatever had happened that day at work was written all over my face because all she had to say was, you don't have to go back Monday. And that's all she said. That was the only conversation we had because then she left. But whatever had happened leading up to it, that's all she needed to say because then the weight of the world. Like I would never leave a job. I had 3 kids to raise, a wife, a house. You know, we had bills. I had responsibilities. But hearing my wife say, you're good to go, like
gave you permission to just kind of walk away.
Yeah. So it was just having each other back in that moment. And I literally said, I jokingly actually did say, I actually kind of have to because I have to go back and clean out my desk. But
yeah.
So, you know, the history from there is I went back and that was it. I kind of I actually left on mental health leave because I was miserable from working there. My mental health was at its absolute worst. A little bit because of my dad, a little bit because I wasn't doing what I was passionate about, and just a lot of things kind of contributing there. And I just, from there, it's just been uphill. Like it's an excitement. Not saying it's all been easy. Nothing's certainly been handed on a silver platter. It's been a road. It's been a journey, and I've fought my way through it. A lot of ups, downs, as you know, running any business, a lot of ups and downs along the way, successes, failures. And again, failures are my thriving point. It's where I love to live. But I also love to live way over my head in terms of overloading myself for burnout purposes. But
we're all guilty of that.
I don't rest well. So I just always have to be doing 5 things at once, not just 2,
Yep.
but 5. And it's just truly been a journey that I am happy for. And it's not, and everything I've done has been really just bucket list for me. It's not, I'm not searching for the pats on the back. I'm not searching for anyone else's approval. It's not, none of what I have done is because I really, truly, this is going to sound wrong when I say it, but it's not what I mean. I'm not doing it because I care what other people think. I'm not.
And you're opposite from me.
I'm not looking to achieve these things because I care about what people think of me or how people see me. Everything I've truly done or achieved is because I've set my mind to wanting to do it. Have I had an incredible support system to get me there? An absolutely amazing customer base who's been exceptionally supportive over the last 15 years? 1,000,000%, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. But I don't do it because I need their approval for it, if that makes sense.
See, I'm the exact opposite because my love language is validation and words of affirmation. So a lot of what I do is driven by, I just want this endless flow of like love and validation coming my way. Like that is such a huge motivation for me. Also spite. I like to prove people wrong. But like when people compliment me, I'll start crying and I'm like, my love language. Thank you so much. This is why I do this.
Yeah. See, and
which
I'm
is
the
not
opposite.
always good to go off of what other people think. Yeah.
And I'm the polar opposite because to me it's acts of service or like tasks. Like I'm a task oriented. If you want to show your love, do something for me. Do the dishes. Like that's my love language. Is I don't need someone like, and I'm not saying it's because I think I'm great, because on the best of days I don't think I know I'm not the best, but I don't even think I'm that great on the best of days. I live in this world of I most definitely have imposter syndrome, and some of that comes back to not being professionally trained, and do I truly belong where I am? And I mean, I know I've put in the work, and mentally I know all of those things, but then there's that deep down doubt of, do I truly belong where I am? I mean, I've put in the work. Nothing's ever been handed to me. I left home at 16 years old with nothing but 2 suitcases. And here I am 20 some odd years later with a whole family in a whole different province and, a career ahead of me. But it's never been handed to me. And so, but I still suffer from imposter syndrome on the best of days. And actually heading to IBIE, that was what was heading through my head the whole time. Like, why am I going? I don't belong up against these people. Like yada, yada, the story, the narrative at this point, right?
Yeah. But we're going to talk about that more because not everyone does know the narrative. That was such a long answer. And I really appreciate it. You're good at filling air. Like it's not like beating a dead horse, like trying to get you to talk, which is fantastic for me. But I also I didn't want to interrupt you. I have so many questions.
Interrupt as much. Yeah. Good.
No, I don't want to interrupt because you're doing such a fantastic job of just guiding us through your story and just hitting all the points already. But also I had so many things to contribute. I'm like, no, wait. Go ahead. Go anytime. No, I just think it's so interesting because I think a lot of us deal with burnout, and that's something that I'm really passionate about and want to talk about is, a lot of us enter this industry doing custom cake orders or custom orders in general. And at some point we all hit burnout. And I've seen people, build a whole business and then they yeet out as soon as they have one cake fall over. And they're like, this is too much, and they're out. And it's wasted potential is the saddest thing in the world for me. Yeah. And that drives a lot of what I do. So, it's really sad. But then there's a lot of us like you and me and a lot of other people I've seen who are able to, they hit the burnout. They have all these crazy things happen outside of their control. And it's what you do with that burnout. And do you completely start over in a brand new career, or do you pivot and find more like new passion, you fall back in love with what you're doing, maybe you take a break and come back. So I really love that you've kind of been all over the place, but you keep being pulled back into this love of baking and all of that, because it's for people who are already in it, you'll get it, but people who are maybe new to this, like, it's addicting. There's something, it's like we love to torture ourselves because there's just something about baking and the passion behind it and the people you meet that just brings you back no matter how much you want to pull away.
And I don't, well, baking in general, but I think it's when you find anything in any career that you truly are passionate and love, no matter how much you try to get away from it, it pulls you back 10 times harder. And I have always loved the idea of, we take the same 5 ingredients all the time and look what you can do with them: butter, flour, sugar, salt, water, a liquid, whatever. Look at what you can create from those 5 basic things. It's literally the backbone to everything we make, but everything is so different. And it's a science. No, I have a science degree, so I think part of that is the science behind it, and just the pure joy that it brings people. I don't eat sweets. I never ever had a sweet tooth my whole life. As a child, I didn't eat sweets. I didn't eat chocolate. Don't love it. I know. Salt. I'm a salt fanatic. So any chip, I never met a chip I didn't like. But that's the thing. Like, I just truly am passionate about what I do. Never met a loaf of bread I didn't like either. Carbs are my love language, apart from acts of service. But and just being able to pass that passion on to people is like kind of why I love where I am right now. Truly speaking, teaching was always a far distant future of what I wanted. But at the same time, it came to me a lot sooner. So now it's like, I can't foresee myself retiring in this position, because that's 20 more years from now, 25 more years from now. So what is the next step? So I'm constantly looking at what could be next. So I do these competitions like IBIE, or the TV stuff with Food Network, or, I do have my own show on our local cable network.
I didn't know that. We'll have to talk about that.
I have 2 seasons of a show on a local cable network here. I have the book. So, okay. And I do the mission, or I do the international work with school, because I've been over to Africa a couple of times working on baking projects and operations over there. So for me, it's seeking the extra stuff that keeps me passionate about the industry, no matter how bored my day job may make me from time to time, because it's the monotony of doing the same thing year after year. But there's always something to look forward to. And that's truly why I love baking, because it's not just in the kitchen making a cake or making a pastry. There's so much to this industry that we can explore.
Yeah, that's what I really love, getting to know other people in this industry. Like, I love networking. I love just getting to know people. And that's a huge drive behind having a podcast. I'm so fascinated with, like, we all started in a kitchen baking, and now, like, you're publishing a book, you're teaching, you said you've been to Africa, you have a local show. That's amazing. And just seeing people, like, find unique ways of, staying in the kitchen, but being unique about it. I think it's just so fun. Like, we get paid to play with people's food, and we get real weird with it sometimes, and finding ways to either monetize it or just have fun with it. Because again, we're playing with food. That's all we do. And so I just think it's so interesting seeing the creative minds and the unique projects that come out of it. Can we talk more about this local show? Is it educational? Is it entertaining? It
was, okay. So the idea behind it was it was a bit of both. Okay, so I don't know if where you are, you have local cable networks that do little, like, local community shows. So I pitched this. So my wife hates it because she just knows that as soon as I say something I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Whether it's in that moment or it's going to happen. The book kind of came to fruition the same way. I walked up from the bakery one day, walked upstairs to her, and I said, "Babe, I'm going to write a book." And she just kind of looked at me and said, "Okay." So I was like, with that, I went downstairs. I wrote out the entire outline of the book. I wrote out exactly how I wanted it laid out. I knew how it was going to look, knew everything about it. Wrote it all down, put it in a binder, closed it up, put it on the shelf. Never touched it again. About a year later, I got a message from a publisher. "Hey, we'd like to chat with you about writing a book. We want you to do X."
They reached out to you.
Yeah. So I was like, I wrote them back and I was like, "Cool, I'd love to have a meeting." I left it at that. I already knew what they wanted, but it wasn't what I wanted, but I wasn't getting into that via email. So I went in, I know we're supposed to talk about the show, and I went on to the book, but I'll get back to the show in a second. I went into that meeting and I said, when I walked in, they had my blog pulled up, they had my socials pulled up, they had everything on the screens, looking at all of it. And they're like, this is what we want. We want you to write a diverse, all around rounded recipe or like baking book. And I was like, if that's what you want from me, appreciate your time, but I'm not interested because I'm not passionate about writing a book about all baked goods. And they said, do you have something in mind? And I said, certainly do. And I pulled out my little draft thing that I had done up. And I said, I want to do a book about cakes and cupcakes. Because at the time, there was nothing that was solely cake and cupcake.
This was, around 10 years ago?
No. So this would have been when I first sat with them. And then COVID, it was like 2018, 2019. Yeah. And then COVID all happened and all that stuff.
Okay, so this is when cupcakes actually died off. I don't know about where you are in Canada, but in America, like we had cupcake wars.
Right.
So I actually used to work in a cupcake shop 10 years ago.
Right.
So that's why I was like, yeah, that's like cupcakes were huge 10 years ago. What are you talking about?
So they kind of died off, but there was no books about it, right? There was no books solely dedicated to cake and cupcake.
Okay.
And then my thoughts were, it's not just the cake and cupcake side of it. It was the book is laid out of literally how I built my business. My book is dirtier than anybody else's because I literally use it all the time. This is my personal copy. I use it in the kitchen all the time. Because it's literally the recipes that built my career. They are what I built my business off of. And it starts with just base recipes. I'm a firm believer that if you understand the fundamentals and the basics of baking, you can manipulate a good, solid base recipe into a million other things. Yes. And that's what this book does. Not a million, but it gives you, it shows you to play in the kitchen. So the whole idea is to get in the kitchen and get creative. And even though, yes, I laid it out to show you 37 different cakes that you can make using just my basic chocolate and vanilla cake recipes, the whole idea is you can mix and match. If you love the filling from one cake and you want to put it in another cake, go right ahead. You now have the tools at your disposal to do that. The only thing stopping you, quite literally, is your own creativity. So yeah, the whole idea is I want you to play in the kitchen and I want you to get excited about something because, again, you might like the lemon peppercorn curd that's in one cake, but you want to try it in a chocolate cake. Well, go ahead. Do what you want with it. That's what I encourage, is to get in there and have fun. If you like the way I decorated one specific cake, but you want it to be decorated like that on another cake, you have the tools and ability to do that now. You know how to do it, so why not? You're not stuck in this framework of this is exactly how you have to do it. I encourage people to get in, have fun, play, get creative, but I also caution people that just because you can doesn't mean you should. It's my number one thing I tell students all the time. Just because you can put something in there doesn't mean you should always put that something in there. But I do encourage you to play around. I do encourage people to get creative and have fun because it's food. And food should be fun. We should be excited about what we eat. We should be excited about what we sell as well. So the show, back to that question, because I tangented and I'm really great at that.
Love it.
The other thing was I told my wife one day, I said, one day I'm going to have a show and I want it to be so I learned really, I guess, to bake fundamentally from my mom years and years ago as a kid, like most of us do, mom or grandma or someone in the kitchen that you looked up to who did it in your family. And that's kind of where I learned the basics. And I guess where my true deep down passion roots from. It's from back then. Even though that wasn't where I went right after high school, it eventually brought me back there. So the show is actually based on, I get into the kitchen with other people's moms or grandmas and we bake one of their family recipes in a different way. So I'm all about putting a creative spin on something that already is loved. So the idea was you give me your family's favorite recipe that you make, and we're going to reinvent it slightly. We're not going to change it, make it crazy because we know your family loves it as is, but I'm going to show you a different way that you can make it and present it to your family and friends. And then while we're there, we're going to chat about, some baking techniques, or give me some of your family stories. Where did you learn to bake? How did you get to, tell me what people in your family say about the baked good. And so each season has 6 episodes. So we have 2 seasons and 6 episodes a season. And the local network that we worked with, they don't do more than 2 seasons because we pitched a 3rd season and they said, no, our funding kind of stops after 2 because of laws around videos and sorts of things here in Canada.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah, it's their funding laws and stuff because it's community TV. A lot of it is funded, so they're a nonprofit.
Oh, okay.
So the way they get their funding, they can't keep funding the same project over and over and over again. So after season 2, they were like, nah. So we pitched a new show. They were kind of cool with that, and then kind of died off. And I just actually the other day I got a message from the producer that I work with, the production company, telling me that when he gets back from his most recent trip, we need to chat about a project that's coming up. So there may be
Well,
new
that's
things
very
in the works.
exciting. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it accessible anywhere to people outside of where you live?
Season 1 is currently on YouTube.
Okay.
So my YouTube is man versus cake, or youtube.com/man versus cake, all spelled out. And so season 1 is there. Season 2 hasn't made it there. It's been out for a year. I actually don't have the clips to actually put up. I've asked for them, but kind of life happened and I kind of forgot about them. Now that
It's
you bring
a process.
it,
Yeah.
now that you bring it up,
Put that on your to-do list. Yeah. It's hard when you're trying to manage all these different things. It's like my to-do list just keeps growing and I'm never catching up on it.
I feel that deeply.
Yes, yes.
And then I just feel like, well, this new sparkly thing looks more fun than my old to-do list. So let's do the new fun sparkly thing.
Yes, yes. Or sometimes I get so overwhelmed and so my outlet is starting a new project. I'm like, I'm overwhelmed by everything. I'm going to plan a new photo shoot and I'll just go nuts on it. So I get it.
Hyperfixate there. I get it. I feel it. That's so yeah, I'm somewhat like that, but at the same time, I'm like, I would love, the book was kind of set up to be a series of books. The publisher shut down the second book, but I haven't even attempted to look down the road for a new publisher. But I already have it all written out what the book will look like. Again, that's kind of in a drawer somewhere, and that's just how my life has manifested. I put it in a drawer somewhere, and eventually, comes full circle. It doesn't mean I haven't pursued things. It's just, I'm a firm believer of in the right time and right moment, things will happen. And so, I talk about them, I bring them into existence, and then I just kind of let them be. I let them come to me as, not the people come to me, I let things happen within my life as they're naturally supposed to progress. And that's one of the other things I like to, encourage people with is I don't have goals. It's really funny. People are like, well, what's your goal? What's your next step? I don't have them. And really? I know your face just went like,
no, I'm judging you so hard right now.
As you should. And most people do until I explain why.
Okay.
So I have goals, but I don't at the same time, because when we have a goal, we hyperfixate on said goal. And when we hyperfixate on the goal, we put blinders on. And when we put blinders on, we don't see everything else in the world going on around us. So when I stopped focusing on a specific goal and started just living life and letting things happen as they naturally are intended to happen in my life, I've been fortunate enough to have so many opportunities brought to me to do than if I were hyper-focusing. Because if I was hyper-focused, like, oh no, I can't do that because it's going to distract me from my goal. I can't do that project because now it's taking away from my goal project. So when I took those blinders off and kind of started accepting things kind of coming at me from all directions, it's made me a much more well-rounded person. And at the end of the day, I'm still working towards my goal because it's making me a stronger person to get to that end goal without that hyper focus. And that's the problem with having, I find, and in my personal experience with having goals, is we just tend to miss out on so many other great opportunities that we probably aren't seeing as great opportunities because they're not our goal. Right. Yeah. So the questions I tend to ask myself when something comes my way, to whether I'm going to take it on as a project or to do it is it going to harm me? Is it going to harm my family? Am I going to lose money on it? Realistically, those are the three goals, right? So if the answer to the harm myself, and if the answer is no to all three of those, then the answer to the question is, then why not? Why not add another experience to my resume, or add another experience to my repertoire, or add another experience to my life? Why not? Why am I going to say no to something if it can work viably for my family, if I can take time away or whatever? Because again, there's lots of opportunities I have passed up. I do have a family. I have a wife who works as a nurse. I have 3 children who are very active in sports. We are constantly on the go. So if I can make it work, I will. But I haven't been able to take on every opportunity. But it's ever since I've taken the blinders off that I've been able to really, truly live and experience this life that I've kind of created and manifested because I've let opportunity happen. Instead of saying, nope, I have my tunnel vision and that's all I want. And I think if I had stuck to tunnel vision, I would have missed out on so many amazing things because I would have, and my career wouldn't be as exciting as it has been.
Yeah. See, I would say like I'm the opposite. I have a million goals. I
Right.
have post-it notes on my wall, that I'm always staring at and trying to figure out how I can make it happen. And I feel like I'm like the master, I don't want to say manipulator, master
Puppeteer.
puppeteer.
Yeah.
Like I'm always like, okay, how can I bring this person in to help with this? And like I'm really good at networking. I people tell me all the time like I have a way with people, and they're like, you're so magnetic, like you just draw people in. I get that all the time.
Yeah.
And so I'm always like seeing like, okay, this person, they'd be really great for this project I have, and this person is really great for this, or whatever. And I'm always constantly just bringing people together and putting on these big, crazy, over the top things. But it's all with like these goals in mind. And I have a million things I want to do. We'll talk about your bucket list. But, I have a bunch of stuff on my bucket list. I have a bunch of things, just goals in general that I want to get to. And I have it all mapped out in my brain, and I have phases in my business. Like right now, my phase is marketing. And so, I'm going to be super focused on marketing, but like what helps me is like, I don't have kids. I still have not done that. And I've been putting it off for many reasons, but a lot of it is because like I love the freedom and flexibility. I live with my parents, if I'm honest too. My husband and I live in their basement apartment, and that has allowed a lot of flexibility where even though I have a million goals and things like that, I love side quests. I love them so much, but it's like easy for me to just say, even if it doesn't pay me, I'm like, I don't care. That sounds amazing. And I'll just like jump on opportunities all the time. And I'm just constantly jumping from thing to thing. And it's
not necessarily
but I
paying.
love it.
Not all these projects
No.
pay us, right? IBIE
no,
doesn't
they
pay
don't.
you. The TV shows don't pay you, but they're paid for. So I'm not losing money. So I do have that extra little, like I have a family to take care of. I can't be jet setting off to all these places. And, as much fun as it would be, I do have a responsibility in that regard. And to each their own when they have kids. There's no judgment, because for us, it was let's have them young so that we can enjoy our old age.
Yes.
And that was just how we wanted to create our family. I'll be 45 when all three of my children graduated high school.
I'll be 45 when I start having
kids. So like there's lots of life to live after 45. So, yes. And I'll have 3 20-year-olds at that point. That's great, but not everybody wants that lifestyle. And we truly are family oriented, and this business has been built around sacrifice on our family. And that's what people don't truly understand when burnout happens, or when we don't answer a message right away, or we don't take on an order. What you need to understand is, we're small business owners and have lives, right? And a lot of people are thinking like, oh, we're like Walmart and we are accessible at all times, or whenever you want, I can walk in tomorrow and grab something. And that's truly not how it is. And I've kind of built my business from the behind the scenes so people could see that family is first. And yes, they do make many sacrifices for me, and I've made many sacrifices for my family, unfortunately, to not being at a certain event or whatever because a business opportunity came up. But at the background of it all is they are the forefront, right? They are the reason why I do what I do, or why we do what we do. And people need to truly understand that. And I think I did really well building my business around that. And, ask anyone who knows me, because it has happened, because people try to attack our businesses all the time. Once you start a business, you get any and everything. So I've had we're going to shut you down. We're going to report you. I've been reported to every department you can imagine. Every department.
Serious?
Oh, every department you can imagine over the years I've been reported to. I'm above board on everything, so it never comes to fruition, but there's always those people trying to bring you down, right? And so I laugh in the face of it. Please come in. My books are open. See what you want to see, do what you want to do. I'll show you the certifications you need to see, whatever. But the minute, and you can attack my business all you want, and you can attack me all you want, but the minute you bring my family into it, look out. And it just recently happened. Literally still after 15 years, it's still happening. Someone made an off the side comment about something about how I was running my business, then dragged my family into it. And I was like, gloves are off now. Like this is my line. This is where I draw it, and you've stepped over it, right? I've spent 15 years building this baby. Say what you want about it. I will get defensive over it, but the minute you bring my family into it, gloves are off.
Yeah. Oh, that's so rough.
It's crazy.
I want to talk about your family more. So kind of giving some insight into my experience, and then I would love to open it up to your experience.
Yeah.
Is having a supportive spouse who is okay with you going off and doing things. Not everyone has that support system. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize, because I've had people who are like, oh, I'm so jealous, or I don't think I'm doing enough because I'm seeing how much you're doing. And I'm like, yes, but I have an insane support system. I live with my parents. They are amazing. They're a huge support for me. We just went down to IBIE Baking Expo in Vegas. My mom drove down with me and let me keep her car, and she flew back. But also, like, I have my husband, I have my in-laws, like I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I have a lot of siblings, and all of us we get along very well. We're constantly helping each other, all of that. But one of the big pivotal moments in my career and what got me here was, and this kind of goes back to what you were talking about before, where you got so burnt out, you closed down a bakery. I was on the other end, where I worked at a bakery that shut down. So I worked at a cupcake shop at the height of the obsession of cupcakes. And they had won Cupcake Wars, and they were a big deal. And I was working at this bakery, and I finally felt like, okay, finally, like, I am where I want to be in life. I had just been promoted to cake decorator. Finally, I was full-time. They just switched me to full-time. And I was like, yes, I am finally where I want to be. This is everything. And immediately after they promoted me, the owner said, I can't do this anymore. She had 2 locations. She shut down. She gave us a 2-week notice. January of 2015, so 10 years ago. She just was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. And if I don't shut down right now, I'm committing to another year. I could go into a whole backstory there, but she shut down very, very suddenly, and she sold everything. I got a lot of stuff from her for very cheap. So that was a huge help for me. But yeah, I suddenly found myself jobless, and I was like, but that was everything. Like, that I was where I wanted to be. But there was one conversation I had with this owner right before she shut down, and it was, there's a cake school in Canada. And she just like mentioned this school in Canada, and it was like probably a month before she closed down, and it was just a random conversation. It was very quick. But little side note is that my husband served a religious LDS mission in Brazil, and I waited for him. So he was gone for 2 years. And, it was like right after high school, he left, he came back, and we got married. And so I waited for him for 2 years. I dated a little bit, but I waited for him. And so when she mentioned that, I was like, oh, I'm like, that sounds so cool. There's a cake school in Canada. Wow. And I was like, just random comment. I was like, yeah, I waited for my husband for 2 years. He can wait for me for a couple months. Ha. And anyways, and then I just didn't think about it again until she shut down. And the day after they emailed everyone, they emailed us, they said, we're shutting down, 2-week notice, we're done. And I was just a puddle of a mess, thinking I lost everything. This was, that to me was like the peak of my life, right? But the next day, I immediately jumped into what's next. And I thought about that school. I was like, oh, there's a cake school in Canada, huh? And so I started looking into it, and there's a whole story behind this. Like, everything fell into place, but I found the cake school in Canada, and in less than 4 months, a coworker and mine actually ended up moving to Canada. So I lived in Toronto for 4 months. I went to a cake design college, and my husband waited for me. We were already married at that point. So it's not like he could go anywhere, but everything just fell into place. And again, like what happened was I went to him. I did some research, and I'm like, this is amazing. I want this. And so I went to him. He was one of the first people I approached about it. And I was like, hey, I think I know what I want to do next. And I told him about this school. I'm like, it's a cake design school. And like, it was like unique, world renowned people come from all around the world to this school. It was like, there was no cake schools at the time. I don't think there still is. But anyways, like I told him all of the amazing highlights of it. He's like, that sounds amazing. I'm like, yeah, it's not that expensive. It's only 4-month program, blah, blah, blah. The kicker is it's in Canada. And he was like, okay,
Yeah.
sounds great. And I was like, but you don't understand. Like here's all the good reasons why I should do this. He's like, okay. And I'm like, okay, but like this and this and this. He's like, I already said okay. Like,
Yeah.
why are you? Because I had this argument like laid out, and this was early on in our relationship, and I just like didn't expect him to say yes, so I was ready. I came in hot with that argument. So okay, that's a lot about me, but like
no, it's same thing with supportive spouses.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't for, again, my wife being the patient and supportive wife that she is, I guarantee you I couldn't do the things. And then that goes both ways. I truly support the things that she wants to do. She just actually went back to school at 40 and did nursing, and that's 2 years of in-school time while we were raising awesome. 3 children while working full-time. I was working full-time, and the kids and all the business stuff while she was going to school. But I did, 90% of the house stuff so that she could focus on school. So it's just supporting each other when the time is right. We've both changed careers a couple of times since we've been together. We've been together almost 18 years. And it's just life happens, right? You just kind of ebb and flow of it. So at one point in our career, my career is high and hers is low, and vice versa. So we just kind of feed off each other. And if you want to, I'm back in school now doing a Bachelor of Education, and she's waiting for me to finish so she can go back and do her Bachelor of Nursing. So it's just, it's this constant back and forth of support. It's not a tit for tat, so to speak, but it almost feels like that. But we never hold that over. Oh, well, I let you go back, so now it's my turn. Or I let you go here, so now it's my turn to go there. It's truly a support system. And if I am gone for extended periods of time, we'll bring in a mother or a mother-in-law to hang out at the house to help out with the kids during that time, because I understand how hard it is being at home during that time. I almost didn't do IBIE actually, because it happened to fall on the same weekend as the one women's retreat she does every year.
Oh no.
And it's the only thing she truly looks forward to going away to, and spending time with other women. And we are a Christian family, so it's very much, she loves that weekend away. And when I got the email that we were selected, instantly had to go ask her, like, hey babe, this is the same weekend. I am okay with saying no if we truly can't make it work, so you can do your thing. And she's like, don't talk so foolish. And so we made it work. We took the kids in. I took the kids to my in-laws while I went away, and she went to her thing, and then she picked the kids up after. So we worked it out. But initially, I was going to say no so that she could do that one weekend a year that she does. So it's truly about balance. And I'm not saying I'm the perfect husband by any stretch of the imagination. Please don't. But it's it's just truly, it goes back to that supporting each other no matter what comes and goes. And then I know it's not all about what I want to do, and I have to leave room for her to grow and do the things she wants to do as well. And it's just been that balance and finding that right flow. Because I wanted her to go to Vegas too with me, but she was going to her retreat, so she couldn't. But
yeah. Well, I think that's really fantastic. Like I love that you have that support system. Not everyone does. You said you have your parents and in-laws and all these people can come together and help you and let you pull that off. It helps that I don't have kids, but also like my husband is not an ambitious person whatsoever. He's like, I'm good. So he constantly helps me, but honestly, like I don't have to do a lot in return. So it's just like, but I love that you guys are equally helping each other. Like, is there anything more you want to, I feel like that's really awesome that you have that relationship with your wife.
I just don't think if we didn't, we wouldn't work. Right. I am a nomad. I would, if someone said pack up tomorrow and you're moving here for this opportunity, XYZ, wherever it is, I'd be like, let's go. She's the one I have to convince otherwise. So, I'm the one who it's not that I don't have ties or cares. It's like, again, it's opportunity. When we moved to where we are now, we live in a fairly small community now. It's only 6,000 people that live here. We moved 8 hours from where we did live prior to. And that's where the majority of her family is. My family's in another province, but Her family is on the east coast of the island, and we currently live 8 hours away on the west coast. So to convince her to even move here was a task in itself, because we were leaving our huge support system that we had, and the family that she obviously grew up and was her family is very tight knit and close. So that was a struggle, was to ask her to move here, and sacrifices had to be made on both sides. It was like, okay, well, if we're moving here, then I want to do this, and moving here gave us the opportunity for her to be able to go back to school, because she left a career that she loved but wasn't going anywhere and didn't really have potential to go anywhere. So it was almost what she needed to kickstart the let's go back to school and become a nurse, which is what she truly always wanted to be. So it opened up that door for her. And having her see that as it kind of progressed, she was like, okay, well, maybe this was a good decision, and now she's working in the hospital. Our kids have settled in. We've mentioned moving back to the other side of the island a few times, and the kids are like, nah, we're good here. We love it here. So they've settled in great. So it's just, without each other's support, none of this would work for either of us. And our relationship wouldn't work, because we're grounded in our faith. We're grounded in our beliefs and who we are, just as people in general. And we need each other to support that, even though sometimes what I see as our future isn't what she sees. We have to compromise. It's about compromise and letting each other kind of do your thing while supporting it.
I love that. Can we actually now transition, because we keep bringing it up, but we haven't actually talked about it. IBIE.
Yeah.
So that's the whole reason why we finally connected.
Yeah.
I would say, like, I love going to expos. I go to a lot of them, and I love networking with people. And something that always throws me off is, like, I'll see someone like you, and I'm like, oh, I know you. And then when it's like someone like you, like, casually says hi to me, like, hey, I recognize you too. I'm like, shit, they know me? Like, I just like it. Yeah, it's like super exciting for me, because I don't know who's following me back, and so when people recognize me back, and it's just like this mutual, like, we look at each other and it's like, hey, what's up? It's like we both know what's up.
We've known each other forever, but we haven't ever met.
Right.
Yeah, you get to go back for decades. But it's IBIE was wonderful. So I applied almost, I think, on like the last or second last day of application, and I wrote my partner in crime when it comes to cake, my cake bestie, and was like, hey, you want to apply for IBIE? She's like, all my info, apply. If we get it, we'll go from there. So I did. I stole some of her cake pictures. I filled in her information, and the rest is kind of history. But it was like, I'm just going to kind of apply for lack of better words, shits and giggles, and see what happens. Never actually expected it to amount to anything, because again, comes back to that, imposter syndrome, that I'm not good enough for this. And why would they ever choose me, and yada, 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 yada. I'm getting in way over my head, and, you're foolish. But then come all the emotions when you do actually get chosen, and it's like, oh, maybe I am good enough. They did see potential, and, I am great. And so you just go through these ebbs and flows of I'm great, and then no, I'm not good for this, and no, I'm awesome, and no, I suck. So it's just that constant roller coaster of emotion that's an internal battle, right? So IBIE was wonderful to get to meet people that I haven't got to, officially meet in person, like yourself, Reva, Jonathan, it's all of them. Like, there's so many people that I follow through social media. And I don't get to go to expos often, because they're not in Canada. We don't have many expos like this. They're not, the States
have one now in October.
There is one in October in Toronto. It's come back.
Yes.
It was gone pre-COVID, where COVID happened, and it kind of went away. It's coming back. I'm not heading to that one just because I did IBIE and work. I do have a day job. They're like, we can't send you everywhere. They do send me. I do tend to go to. So the Baking Association of Canada has a showcase every year as well. It's every second year. It's in Toronto, and then the odd years in between, it jumps between Montreal and Vancouver. So I tend to go to that one every year, and it's very much just a small scale of IBIE. It's IBIE shrunk right down, because it's mainly Canadian based companies and stuff that are there. Rondo's there. All the same people you've seen around, Arden Mills, Rondo, Simply, all those all those people, NJ Packaging, they all come, they're all at the smaller version of IBIE, but people don't tend to come from the States to that one. So you're seeing the Canadian people that you would, may have followed online, but you're not seeing. I feel like the States and the UK are much bigger in this industry than Canada. I'm not trying to toot my horn, but I guess I kind of am. I'm one of the, I think, the more well-known in Canada compared to most, especially East Coast Canada.
That.
And especially East Coast Canada. And it's just because I forged ahead with trying to make a path for myself and loving this industry and trying to bring what the States and the UK has to Canada. Like, we need this. We need this support and show of like incredible talent of what cake can be or what pastry can be. And so it's funny enough, when I sat down at 22 years old looking for loans to open a business, I sat down in front of a board because I went through a crowdfunded, it wasn't crowdfunding, it was angel investors basically, to get my loans for the business. And one of the investors looked across the table to me and said, what's your goal in 5 years? And being a pompous 22-year-old at the time, I was like, I'm going to be a household name. But
I love that.
My mindset at the time was being a household name of feeding everybody. People are going to know me because they're going to be coming into my shop and be buying my things. So this comes back to my blinders, right? So that was my blinded goal at the time, when everybody was going to be coming to my bakery. Everyone was going to be buying my stuff, and I was going to be known for that. But at some point in the transitions of having the bakery and life and all those things, those blinders came off, and I became more of a name in households for a lot different reason, for education purposes, for just my peer, for showing off the talent, those sorts of things, not because everyone was actually coming into the shop and buying my things. So I eventually got to that goal of being a household name, but not the way I initially had my goal set to be. And that's kind of where that switch flicked for me, was that's the blinders got to go, because life has to continue to happen, and we have to keep letting these things into this life in order for this career to become something amazing. Just going back to your comment about people recognizing you, and especially other creators, I do get completely shocked when other creators know who I am. Like, I do find that still a little bit hard to believe. Coming from a small island on the east coast of Canada, like I'm in the middle of the ocean right now. Like, it's very, very, it's sometimes hard for me to accept that. I don't accept compliment well, which is funny. I don't know how to take it. I get awkward. I get really awkward about it. But I'll never forget, I was in LA filming, wasn't LA, but I was in LA visiting a friend from when I filmed Spring, but I was in California filming
Spring Baking Championship.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
So Heather Wong was on the show with me, and I was back out that way filming another show, a Christmas Cookie. And that evening after filming, I went into LA to meet up with her because she was going to show me around, and we're going to get to see this. Or I went in the day early. I can't remember. Anyway, we met up while I was in the area because I knew I was coming. And so she took me around to see all the sites. We went downtown LA, she took me to Beverly Hills, up to the Coliseum. And we were up at the Coliseum. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's where Adele did her big comeback show right in front of the observatory. So the Coliseum, the observatory, up on the top of the hill.
Oh, Griffith Observatory?
Sorry?
Are you talking about Griffith Observatory?
I don't remember the name on it. The one on the top of the hill, you oversee the Hollywood sign.
The Griffith. Okay, yeah. I've been there.
She took me up there, and we're there up on top of the observatory, and we're looking out over, and she's showing me all the different things out over the city line. And someone tapped me on the shoulder. Tapped both of us on the shoulder. She goes, and she said, "So we're in LA right now, right? Like, we're in Hollywood. Yeah. All the stars are." And this family were there, just like beaming, and they're like, "Are you guys Aaron and Heather from Spring Baking Championship?" And we're like,
"Stop."
Yeah. Oh no, it was like the coolest thing ever. We're like, they're like, "We watched your season. You guys were amazing. You guys seemed like everybody was so friendly and blah blah." And we're in Hollywood right now, being recognized for being on Food Network. Like, it was the most out of body experience I think I had when it came to being recognized by people, especially where I was at the time. Right? Because people do it here. I'll go around the grocery here, people be like, "You're the cake guy." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm the cake guy." But having it happen completely randomly in Hollywood, it was wild to me. But
that is really cool, being spotted in the wild. Yes,
yeah.
I love that, because it's like, I've been spotted a lot at like baking expos, but I'm like, the context is there. Of course, you recognize me. So like, I've had people sort of spot me, like on the way back from IBIE. I stopped at a Swig. It's like a soda shop store in southern Utah. And this girl like complimented my nails, and I showed her my pumpkin purse, and she was getting so excited. And I was like, "Do you love Halloween?" She's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Do you love Halloween Wars?" And she's like, and she suddenly like had this like realization, like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, I'm on Halloween Wars. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I recognize you."
Yeah.
Like, I think like the only time I've actually been spotted in the wild, and I had to like bring it
You
up.
get to coax the conversation. No, listen,
I didn't coax it.
no,
So
I
very
tend to
jealous.
avoid it. I'm like, so
Yeah.
whenever I come
I
back
usually
from
don't do
something,
it. Yeah.
but no, I'm just listen. Toot your horn, man. Sometimes we're our biggest cheerleaders.
Yeah.
No matter the size of our support system, a lot of the times we are our biggest cheerleaders. But it's funny because the last thing I do is tell people what I've done in my life. Tell any like, and I know that sounds weird. It's usually somebody else that introduces me and tells people, oh, you know,
Yes.
he's blah blah blah, and he's wrote a book and blah, and I'm like, thanks for breaking that ice. And the reason I don't when I meet new people is because of perception, right? And perceptions of people. When you hear people, you know, we're on TV and they have a book and the appearance of successful, they think they think that I think I'm better than them. And that's the polar opposite. I am the polar opposite of that. Like I'm the bottom of that. Like I'm below you. Doesn't matter what your career is or who you are. Like I feel personally I am below you. Like I'm just here. Like let's exist. So I like to let people get to know who I am before letting them know what I've done in my life. Because then they can make an assumption about who I am without already having pre-assumption of who I am. Because we enter every conversation or every relationship or you know friendship or whatever with pre-assumptions if we know something about somebody. Mm-hmm. Whether we want to believe it or not, we're humans and we enter with that pre-assumption of, oh, well, he's done all these things, so he definitely thinks he's better than us. So like the conversation is guided in a really weird way. There's awkwardness, there's weirdness about it. So it's like I just enter a conversation, and if you recognize me, cool. If you don't, then cool. Like you don't hurt my feelings. And then somebody will butt in and be like, "Oh, did you know he was?" And I'm like, "Thanks."
Oh, I love when people bring it up for me. I'm like,
avoid that conversation. You, you know, because I don't want to make the conversation all about me. Because I don't want people to have that pre-assumption that I am just a pompous asshole who's done all these things. And the conversation needs to be around me because it's the whole. I want the opposite. Please don't ask me questions. Like I don't want to talk about me right now. Contrary to what most would believe, I don't enjoy talking about myself.
Yeah, I would say like it's really hard. It's one thing when it's strangers and it gets brought up, but I don't know if you've had this, but it keeps happening where it's like there's people in my past who like maybe I've known since high school or, you know, like long family friends or whatever. And it's like there's this weird transition that sometimes happen. Either they still see you, like my siblings are still like, you're a bitch. I'm like, thank you so much. Like they don't care, you know, and they're not impressed by the things I do. They're like, another show, we have to, like, I don't want to come to this watch party. So like that happens. But then you have like other people that you've known forever. And then there's this weird transition when you start doing more and more where suddenly they start treating you differently. And they almost like, they're like, oh my gosh, like I'm so proud of everything you've done. But like, you can tell they're like really excited to be around you. And you're like, I'm still the same asshole I was before. You know, It's just like, I'm not anything different. I'm still the same person. And it's just weird when people from your past start treating you different. And I don't like that transition.
I don't either. I think, sorry to talk over there. I think some of it though is they're trying to get in on the like, oh, well now she's popular and on TV, and like maybe if I get buddy, I'll be on the next one. And it's terrible to think that that's what people, but that's people, that's human nature, right? Like they're like, oh, how can I get in on this goodness that's happening in this person's life? And it's funny that we talk about because I'll never forget spring baking. It was my first time filming. I was still working in healthcare at the time. I was still considered very much a home baker at the time. I was going up against people who were professionally trained, so I was way out of my element, but loving every second of it. But back to the production side of it, is like we had handlers. There was the crew behind us. You know all about your handlers, and you know it'd be like we'd be leaving the building, and they're like opening the door and holding an umbrella over our head while we walk to the car and opening the car door. I'm like, I can open a car door. They're like, you're not allowed. I'm like, what do you mean I'm not allowed to open my own car door? Like, no, we have to open it for you. And so like in the first few days of filming, it was like really awkward, but then we got to know the crew and we're like, we'd be walking up to the door, we're like, that door's not going to open itself. You know, and just joking around. I'm like, excuse me, I'm the talent. Remember, where's my umbrella? like,
Right. Like,
and just but that's not who I am in real life. But it's fun. Like, we just got to become friends. Now, if we hadn't became friends with the crew, certainly wouldn't have that dynamic. But after a few days of it happening, it was like, first it was awkward, but then it just became a huge joke. And it was just it was just fun, and it made the whole process fun, I think. Because the whole group, the group of us that did that show, I think, and from what I hear from production in general, because I still talk to some people from the production company, we were one of the best seasons for actually developing a friendship and people who actually genuinely cared about each other. Because you know how it can get, right? There's people on the shows that we all just work respectfully with, and it is what it is, and we go our separate ways. But genuinely, I think we created some amazing friendships on that show, and I still talk to most from time to time. We're not buddy, but we still follow up with each other and see where we're at and what's going on in life. And it's so it was a great experience for that being my first one. I think if it had gone differently, I don't know if I would have kept applying for shows, because the experience, I think, was what really made that one fun. Because I was so out of my element. Now, I made it to the top 5 out of 11, so it was amazing. For not knowing what I was doing, fake it till you make it type of situation. But, I absolutely loved it. I got to hang out, like, Duff now comes to Newfoundland every year. He has been for the last 10 years. And the weekend, so I flew back from IBIE on Thursday. I landed at lunchtime, drove directly from the airport to a food festival that weekend where I did 2 events out of 4 for the food festival. And Duff comes in with his family every year and does that festival as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So Noah Cap was actually the host of the event on the week for the full weekend. So he was in, and then Duff and Jeff and Duff's brother, Kevin, or Jeff's brother, Kevin, I think Kevin's Duff's brother.
I'm not sure.
Terrible. Don't watch this stuff. I'm sorry. Kevin was in, and he comes in and helps, but this was Duff's 10th year. Coming in and doing the festival. So it's really cool. The people that I've met, Kimberly Bailey so she's the butter end out of LA. She wrote the foreword to my book because she was the judge on one of the shows I did, and we stayed connected after that show and just kind of grew a friendship. She was going through some, lots of stuff with kids, and she went through cancer again for the second time. And we just kind of chatted through that. And the book came up, and I asked her if she would mind looking it over, and if she liked what she saw to write. There was no pressure. Like, if she didn't, I don't ever believe in endorsing something that you don't believe in. I have not purposefully promoted products that were sent to me for advertising because I didn't like them. I'm sorry. I'm not going to lie for you. If I don't like your product, I'm not going to promote it to people that trust my word or my, what's coming from me. And so when I sent her the book, I was like, hey, listen, no hard feelings. If it's not your vibe to endorse it, if you want to, I'd be, extremely honored. But if it's not your thing, then don't. But she read it through and wrote a really great foreword for the book. So, the people that I've met over the years between expos and, like yourself and other creators, Reva, Jonathan, all the people that I've met, there's far too many that I could ever, I'm naming these ones because they're the most freshest in my brain right now from recently. Right. But there's just been so many over the years of people that I've met that have just been an integral part of the growth. And like you said, knowing people and bringing them in on projects, or even just shooting them a random question and being like, hey, listen, here's how I'm feeling. Like, how did you deal with this? Or, hey, how did you get into this? Or, hey, how did you get into that? I had a conversation with Anna Olson at the last BAC showcase, about books. She took a look at my book. I bought her book, and she's like, there's no money in books. And I was like, I know. she's like, doesn't matter how many you sell.
Well, good to know that I don't go down that route. Okay.
Yeah. She's like, no matter how many of them you write, she said, there's no money in it. And I'm like, I figured that out. And she's like, but we do it because we love it, right? You're passing on the knowledge of that you have. And I think that's truly why I love it so much, is because I just get to pass on what I know to the next generation of people, or just take the scariness out of baking. A lot of people find baking to be scary because it is a science, right? So yes. My hope is to just make it fun, creative. And if you fail, well, who cares? Try again. We all fail at something. Stop comparing your day one or your first one to my 1,000. I've piped millions of cupcakes, as I'm sure you have. You worked in a cupcake shop.
So many.
We can do it in our sleep at this point. And speaking of doing it in our sleep, I have a funny story about that. But so it's just like, don't compare the first cupcake you ever decorated to something I've done a million times. I've practiced and practiced and practiced. And I do this every day, all day. So get in there and just enjoy it and accept the failure of it and do it again if you have to. Nothing is ever, no matter what it is, baking or any sport, practice is required to make perfect, you know? But funny story about sleeping while decorating something.
Okay, yeah, I have to hear this. You're a great motivational speaker, by the way, but also like, yes, I have to hear this story.
I've been told that. So I do have a goal in mind, or a bucket list item is to do, I do want to be not a motivational speaker. I do want to be the, my brain is now fried because it's now almost 4 o'clock. I want to be the guest speaker at an event. What do they call it? It has a name.
TED Talk?
Not necessarily a TED Talk. Anyway,
okay.
You get invited to be the head, the opening speaker for a conference or something, and share a story. It has a name, and I can't think of it right now. But I already actually have a whole opening. I have a whole story written, and it's just sitting in a vault somewhere to eventually break out when the opportunity knocks. So it's kind of what I do. But so my wife was pregnant with our second, and I had the bake shop at the time. So this was, we had the baby. We bought the house, bought the bakery, all these things in 6 months. And so I knew she was due coming up, and she was going to be induced. So we kind of knew the due date. So I was trying to get ahead of schedule with upcoming orders. And I was like, I need to be at the ready when the phone rings to be at the hospital. So like, I have to have everything done because I was still too nervous and the business was still too new to hand things off to people that worked for me. So I was still taking care of all of the decorating of cakes because I just couldn't let that go. And so I was doing a wedding order where I had to do, it was a cookie table, one of the biggest cookie tables I ever made. I had to make like 250 bride shortbread cookies and like 250 groom shortbread cookies and there's a bunch of other cookies. I made meringue cookie topiary trees, 2 of them that were massive. They had like 500 meringues each on them, plus all kinds of other stuff. Wild, don't ask me why. But I did it. Anyway, so I'm standing there and I had a massive table built for this bakery. So underneath was all kinds of shelving units, but the top was a full piece of plywood that was covered in stainless steel. So it was 4 foot by 8 feet. This was my table that we worked on. And so my assistant was standing across from me. We had cookies spread out everywhere. And I basically fell. And my assistant looked at me, she goes, "Did you just fall asleep?" And I kind of went, "I don't know." And I looked down at the cookies and you could see the icing trail off the cookie as I had fallen asleep and like dozed off standing there. Like I was just the burnout, the exhaustion of trying to get everything ready. But it was just like, she's like, "I think you fell asleep." And I'm like, I think I did, but I don't know. And it was just
at least you didn't have like your face imprint in the cookie.
Just into the cake. No, I fell sideways and caught myself. But if you looked at the cookies, there was like 4 cookies with a trail of icing that kind of just went off the side. If you ever dozed off writing something and your pen just kind of drags, well, that's the icing did that across the cookies. It was hilarious at the time, but it's just one of those things that sticks with you. And she just recently wrote me actually because she still follows the journey of the bakery ever since. And she's like, "Remember the time when the horses are done? The horses are done." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I actually do." And the story behind that was I had to make 2 horse heads for a horse racing, I think it was. I did 2 horse head cakes, but like making the hair for them, it was like individually pieces of fondant and like laying it on. And I had 2 and I had to make them identical, but facing each other.
Yeah. And
the happy dance that I did when those horses were done, no one will understand except for her. And she wrote it and she was like in the comments, she's like, "Remember the horses are done?" I'm like, "Yeah, I sure do." And that was 15 years ago now. Like, I'll never forget it. Because it's just that satisfaction of I'm done with this stupid order. Why did I take it? Here I am.
Yeah. But
it's just,
oh my gosh.
The journey and the stories that we collect along the way are just incredible. And the people.
It's just fun,
people.
Yeah.
I can never remember all the people that I've come across. Or that I've had the opportunity or pleasure of meeting. I try so hard. And even I forget some of the things I've done. Like somebody will be talking about something. "Remember the time you did this?" And I'm like, "Right, I did do that, didn't I?"
Oh yeah.
So it's really fun. It's rewarding. It's exhausting. But I just keep, forging ahead and pushing forward because I can't be bored.
Right. Yeah, me neither. I can't. I want to revisit IBIE because we started talking about it, but then it turned into recognizing people and, it went on a whole other tangent. That was like 20 minutes ago, I think.
Yeah.
So I want to revisit IBIE. So for context, maybe for those who are listening and don't know what IBIE is, we could keep talking about it.
Yeah.
Uh, so IBIE is International Baking Industry Exposition. That's why we shorten it to IBIE because that is a mouthful. But it is a massive baking expo in Vegas. It is only once every 3 years, and people come in from literally all around the world, and it's a 4-day expo in Vegas. And it is, I love IBIE. It's a different vibe than a lot of the other expos. I personally, like, my favorite expo was SoFlo Cake and Candy Expo, which we don't have anymore. But IBIE is different. So again, like, some context here, like, people come in from all around the world, and you're meeting a lot of people who are engineers, who are mechanics, who are, like, science people, who are not necessarily bakers and decorators. So there's less cake decorating that's happening at this expo. And I actually love that there's more networking that happens at a show like this versus like SoFlo. It's like, yeah, we all do cakes, and I respect the game, but there's not a lot of networking that actually happens there, at least for me. But IBIE, it's like, like, someone was talking about asking me to come and train their staff in Egypt, and I'm like, great, I love that. But it's like, people like, oh, you are in a different niche in this industry, like, what can you do for me, because we don't decorate cakes, or we don't teach baking. So anyways, that's just like the context of what IBIE is. But within IBIE, you have Retail Bakers of America, and they put together the classes that happen all weekend, as well as they have a live cake decorating competition on a stage. I did it 3 years ago. My friend Corey, he did it last time and this time. He did it twice. But yeah, his teammate dropped out at the very last minute, and I had to. He asked me if I would step in. And it helped that I lived 6 hours away. So, I'm in Utah. I drove down to Vegas. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys have like from June or July till September to be able to plan 4 cakes. You have to make 4 cakes over the span of 2 days. You're on a time competition. You only have 6 hours each day. You're up against, I think it's, what?
Get it right.
They cut it down. We didn't have a forced break last time.
No, we were forced to take lunch.
Yeah. So you guys had to make 4 cakes over the span of 2 days. You're competing against several other teams. And you put on this whole competition. And I stepped in. They had several months to plan. And when this teammate dropped out, Corey asked me to step in. So I had like 2 weeks. And there's a lot going on. That's a whole nother story. But like, I was dealing with a lot of stuff at the time. And I said yes. I love, jumping on opportunities. And I did this live cake decorating competition. And I'm sad I missed out on it this year, but like, it was still so fun being on the other side of things. And I want to hear your experience on IBIE and working with Retail Bakers of America and doing the live competition, and have at it. Like, please.
Yeah. So like I said originally, I did it for shits. I applied for shits and giggles, see if we could make it. We made it. Now we're here. So we had a couple months to plan, but at the same time, again, because I'm a nomad and I fly by the seat of my pants on the best of days, I work well under pressure. So we go in with an idea, because going in with a plan never works. Because when you see, like, and I seen a couple, and it actually was kind of proven from the girls who came in overall. The girls from Quebec, they were amazing. They were team 1 next to me. They had a detailed plan down to the minute of what they were going to complete. But on day 1, they started falling behind, and they felt the pressure of falling behind that plan. And I'm like, that's why I don't make a plan. Because then you have that added stress of, oh, now we're behind the clock. Now we're 5 steps behind where we should be. We had an ultimate plan of what each cake would look like, the elements that we needed to have, the ones that, if they work out, they work out. That sort of thing. But going into some of these competitions, I don't have a full-fledged plan, because, again, we get that added stress of the clock, and I'm not meeting I have to be done this by 9:15, I have to be done this by 9:30, and this by 9:50, and this, and when you miss one, now you're a task behind. And then our mental health and our state of mind starts to unravel, right? We start to spiral on, oh gosh, how am I going to catch up? What's next? How do I reevaluate my whole plan, my action plan? And you really can't. So we just kind of walked into that going, it is what it is. We have an initial plan. We have a vision of what we would like. This is what we do for a living. So at the end of the day, we're not really out of our element. The only out of the element being we have 5.5 hours to do it, not a week, like some of these cakes would take. And then the added bit of the interaction with the crowd. So people hate that. Some people hate that. Like my partner will not interact with the crowd. It's not her vibe. Like she will if someone directly speaks to her. But me, I thrive on that. I'm like, yeah, let's have a chat. They're like, aren't you supposed to be working? I'm like, I am working.
Yeah, I had a whole chat with the audience to the point that the people running the show were like, please stop talking to her. And I'm like, I love this.
Yeah, like this is what's keeping me going. If you didn't talk to me, I would be so bored right now. So it's for me, the interaction with the clients or the people around at the show was amazing, and I recognized faces that literally stood there for almost the 2 full days straight. I remember this one little girl, like she literally was in front of it. She would pop down to the other booth, but she's like, no one's talking to me, so she kept coming back up to me because I would interact with her. Like her parents owned a bakery, so they were out shopping at all, interacting with all the booths. And she was just kind of hanging out with me, her and her brother, and we hung out for like the 2 days, and it was just a really good experience to just let her see like this is how it all unfolds. And people know this isn't our best foot forward. We do what we can, but we're in a 5.5 hour time crunch. We're working with products that aren't our usual products. For most of us, we're working in environments that are really warm. I'm not used to warm weather, not like that anyway. 100-degree weather. So some of that stuff is all stacked against you before you even go in. And you have to go in with the mentality of things are going to happen and you have to be able to move on. Because if you can't get over the fact that something's going to go wrong, you're going to spiral. And I'll never forget spring baking. I know I'm shifting for a second. One of the producers came over to me during one of the filmings and she said, I need your face. This was literally her words. I need your face to match what's going on the plate or on the counter right now. And I looked at her and I said, what you're looking for, it's not going to happen. I said, because the minute that my face matches what's going on down here, nothing's getting on the plate. Because basically there was a disaster happening. Things weren't going as planned ultimately, but my face was saying otherwise. Like I was still smiling. I was still interacting with the people next.
You were being too positive with your face. I thought it was the opposite.
No. So I was being very much like, everything's okay. I'm going to be fine. Like there's going to be a dessert. We pivot, we shift. What's our next move? Like that. That's my vibe. That's how I get through it. Because I know at the end of the day, even when it happens with a cake, I mean, things happen when you're working on a customer's order, even though you might have had a month to plan for it and to make flowers and things. When we bake in the last minute and start decorating, does it fall over? Is it bulging somewhere where it shouldn't be bulging? We still have a deadline to meet and put up a good product for that client. So we have to be able to deal with that without spiraling, because the minute we spiral is when shit really unravels. And that's just human nature, because when things don't go as planned, we just spiral, and then spiraling gets us nowhere. So yeah, that producer wasn't too happy with me. So I go into the competitions knowing, IBIE especially, that things weren't going to go as planned. I had a plan, but I didn't have a set of plans. It was, I'll get done what I can get done. This is what I do for a living. It's nothing out of the ordinary, except for dragging all of our 300 pounds worth of stuff across the country. It's still in shipping back at this point. It hasn't even made its way home to us yet. And that was 2 weeks ago now. So it's some of it. I think it would actually be really fun if there was a viewing area, like a set of bleachers where people could literally just sit, take a load off, because IBIE is huge. As you mentioned, it's massive. It spans, for anybody who has never been there and wants a little more, like it spans 10 acres of floor space. If you didn't know that.
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah.
That's
incredible. So the floor plan is 10 acres worth of space.
Yeah.
And you need 4 days to go through the whole thing. So I tried to do it in one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I got like a fraction done in one day.
I heard there's like a whole other building that I never explored, and this was my second time going.
That building has full factory set up in it. Like full bakeries in there. Like I'm not even joking. I walked by 3 full bakery setups where they were baking fresh on site and handing it out to people. And they had the full setup, front counter, back, the ovens, the cooling areas, the decorating space, full on bakery setup over on the other side. And it was just, so there's good reason it only happens every 3 years, because the amount of effort, like their logistics manager must be needs to be paid double. I don't even care what they get paid. They need to be paid double because think about it. There was running water to a lot of these booths. There was running electricity to these booths. You have just the logistics of getting their stuff into the loading doors in a timely and organized manner. And these companies are shipping their stuff weeks before, right? It's showing up randomly. And this person's wild to me that someone has that much organization skills to handle it.
I would hate that job. I would hate it.
Me too. I don't, I work well under pressure, but not that organized. It's, I'm organized chaos at all times. I can tell you exactly what a recipe is written on, what stains on it where, and I can tell you where to find it, but I'm not organized enough to have it in a book, right. Than the one I wrote. But, when it comes to my other recipes, they're just everywhere. But IBIE was amazing. It was amazing to finally meet a lot of people that I never actually got a chance to meet in person. Would I venture back myself outside of the competition? I don't know, because Vegas isn't for me. I'm a pretty quiet person, weirdly enough, and I come from a very small town.
You're not quiet. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm not personally quiet, but I'm a great introvert extrovert. As soon as I'm done with people, I'm done with people. And Vegas made me done with people because it's just so busy all the time. It literally is the city that never sleeps. And so when I got home, I was like, I went from the busy lights and streets of Vegas straight to a small, tranquil town in Bonavista Vista that has population a couple thousand, and it was this is peace. I can go for a walk on the cliffside right by the ocean, and the ocean breeze and smell, and it's this is life. This is the life I like. But Vegas was definitely an experience. But IBIE was something that I'll certainly not forget for a long time.
So can you talk about the logistics of the actual competition? Talk about the different categories and how you placed, and just anything you want to talk about as far as the competition goes.
So out of the 4 categories, we know 3 up front. Well, the 4th one, that it's a fondant cake, and it's a 2-tier. So first category was wedding cake, and the wedding cake had to be no less than 4 tiers. And everybody got the same brief. And that's what I love about that category, is that we all got the same story. But seeing everyone's creative vision come to life around that story is where it's really exciting. Because we put up 6 completely different wedding cakes. I don't even know if you would even be able to tell they were for the same wedding if you really sat back and looked at the 6, just because everyone's creative expression of that story was very different. So if you were no one told you that the story was the same, I don't know if you would have known that each one of them were meant for the same story or the same bride and groom. So that's really fun with that one for me. We actually placed first in that category.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Cake. Yeah, so we placed.
Maybe you did tell me, but I can't remember. I don't know.
It's okay. Lots happened. So we did place first in wedding cake. The second category, which we had to make the same day, was the novelty fondant cake. So that was a 2-tier cake, and we didn't find out till the night before the competition. The theme, not only the design, but the theme as well as the design. So our overall arching theme for everybody was board games, and then we picked board games out of a hat. I did not choose the Game of Life on purpose. It's not a good game. I don't love it. So I, luck of the draw, got the Game of Life. And so those 2 cakes had to be started and finished within the same day in 5.5 hours. If they were not on the table by 4 p.m., you were automatically disqualified from that category of whatever you didn't finish. So then and nothing can be pre-made. So yes, you can have a design in mind. So it's, planning and prepping is great and all set and good and well if you have 6 months to plan and prep, but there's nothing you can really prep ahead of time other than a design. You can talk about a plan, you can write out a plan, but nothing goes as planned in competition. So I don't know if any amount of time, because I actually had so much on the go in life in general leading up to that I didn't start planning those cakes till 2 weeks before IBIE. I really didn't. I was the night before building my structure for the groom's cake. The night before I flew out in my garage, cutting the boards, cutting the threaded rods. I was doing that the night before I flew out because I was just so busy. Day 2. Day 2 was a groom's cake, and the groom's cake had to match the bride and groom's story. So seeing how each person pulled out what they thought of the groom was really cool. But to me, a groom's cake needs to be 100% groom. And a lot of people incorporated elements of the bride, and really even elements of the wedding, which to me isn't a groom's cake. So we didn't place in the groom's cake. I was a little bit bitter about that because I think for me, looking at all of the cakes, we were the only team that actually only showcase the groom.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's like, so I truly understood I'm not saying I had the best cake. The ones that did win, they were incredible. But when you talk about the brief of what the cake should have been, we really truly were the only ones who met the brief of what a groom's cake is, in my opinion. So a little bit bitter, but it's okay. We get over that. And that's competition. You kind of just got to go with what the judges say, and it is what it is. And then the second cake that day was a buttercream cake. So that had to be a 3-tier square, which everyone knows squares are brutal in a timed competition. And it had to be in the theme of the 4 elements. So earth, wind, water, and air. And how you showcase that was up to you. So we placed third in buttercream as well. And I think the only true reason, the cake was great. Wasn't what we truly envisioned in the end, but I think why we placed was how we actually positioned the cake. So we knew going in that everybody where it was, and this is why I think they set people up like this, is it's a theme that has 4 categories ultimately, or 4 subject matters. It's a square cake with 4 sides. So we knew that everybody was going to go 4-sided, 1 side for each element. And we decided that was not going to be us. So we worked from the crust of the earth, the lava and the crust, all the way up to the air. So we transitioned from bottom of the cake to the top of the cake, which I think kind of set us apart from everybody else instead of going the 4 paneled sides like everybody else had done. So I think that's what set us apart in that regard for that one. But
yeah, so go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, truly at the end of the day, like every cake kind of came out to a version of the plan we had. But like any competition cake, I knew it wasn't going to be exactly what we wanted. But given the elements, the time, all those things, certainly happy with how it all played out.
Yeah. I think what set us apart last time, because we had very similar setup, like our surprise theme, because the Queen of England had just passed away when I did mine. So they gave us a theme, King of England. And then for the 4-sided cake, you were kind of talking about how you guys ended up not doing all 4 sides. So when I stepped in last minute, the original plan that my teammate and his previous teammate had was to do, I think it was a transition, like kind of top down, but only on one side of the cake. And, we had to rework all the designs when I stepped in 2 weeks before, like, because we didn't know what this other girl was actually planning. She was kind of deciding all of this stuff. And then when she dropped out, we're like, we don't know what her notes mean. So we had to completely redo everything. And we had a rough first day of the competition. And I was up late still trying to think about the next day because we were still kind of making decisions. Yeah. And I work really well under pressure. And so midnight the night before, I was looking up ideas and not getting any sleep. And I had a new idea for that 4-sided cake. Ours was not elements. It was the 4 seasons. So very similar. And so I sent a picture to Corey the night before at midnight. And I'm like, this is my new idea and I'm going to go with it. He's like, okay, bet. Yeah. And so the next day, like I did this entire cake, mostly, I don't think Corey touched it at all. I think I did this like whole 3-tier cake. And, like you said, buttercream, it has to be all buttercream. It's 3 tiers, it's square, all of that. And I did this design where I had trees crawling up each corner of the cake, and then each side was a different season. And I had like all this like piped and airbrushed buttercream. So because we ended up doing all 4 sides was actually what did set us apart, because only one other team did that. And so we got 2nd place.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think like I saw that this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one thought that actually. So I think going into this, people might have seen that from before, and then everyone ended up doing all 4 sides, and you reverted back to, okay, let's do this like beautiful transition. And that's what set you apart.
And
so
I don't
it's
think
really funny that
it is, because you can't find the cakes online unless you knew who competed and actually went to their individual pages. There's no like IBIE, here's the cakes from previous years. And so it was like, we didn't even know what we were getting ourselves into. And I mean, it changes year over year anyway, in terms of like who's competing. So you really can't judge it by that. But for me, it was like, I knew the minute I heard 4 and square that most people were going to do that 4-sided panel type thing. And I was like, no, that can't be us. We have to do something different. And life happens through that. And again, it wasn't the perfect vision of what we had wanted initially, but it clearly got us 3rd place. And, given more time, we all could be amazing. I think if we could really showcase our real talents in all these categories, I think it would be so insane. But the amount of time you would need for that. But even Duff kind of mentioned it because he was at the competition and we were having a great chat. He actually didn't know what was going on. He come out and he's like, we were talking for a good 5-10 minutes, and he's like, are you competing right now? I was like, yes, Duff, I'm competing.
You're like
right
casually talking to him, and you're like,
we were having a great chat, and he's like,
Yeah.
are you competing right now? I was like, yeah. He's like, is this a timed competition? I was like, yeah. He's like, do you want me to leave you alone? I was like, nah, man, I'm good. Like, I'm still working. We're just having a
You're
chat.
Duff. You can, yeah.
Right. And he's like, oh, okay. And he just stayed a little longer. And then he's like, were you guys able to make anything ahead of time? And I was like, no. He's like, why? He's like, these things he's like, yourself that these competitions are so much better when you can pre-prep certain amounts of things, because it lets you bring your best foot forward, right? Like, you're literally presenting a skilled thing. Like, one of our judging comments on the wedding cake was, we would have liked more than one flour. But leading up to
don't
it,
have time for that.
right? Well, and like leading up to it, they were harping on like, oh, it needs to be botanically correct, and if you're going to make a flour, make a good flour, and blah blah blah. Oh yeah, they wanted botanically correct flours and everything.
No,
and so
I don't remember that. Yeah.
So I was like, so when they gave me that feedback at the end, I was like, listen, I said we would rather have given you one nice flour than 3 shitty flours. That was, like ultimately that was the design that we ended up coming up with. There was supposed to be 3. But with timing and things not working out with the first one, we had to start making cuts. So we ended up with one nice flour and a few other things to embellish it. But I think overall, the design came together almost like we had planned. But the feedback being, oh, well, more flours. Okay, we had 5.5 hours to make botanically correct flours. Sometimes it takes that to make one. Like, let's be real.
Yes. I do a lot of sugar flours. Yes, it's like to do even just like a small cluster, I spend a whole week on it.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So I was like,
I would say
the need, but like, come on, we're in a competition here, folks.
Yeah, I would say it does make it a little bit easier because like it's 0 humidity there, and like I live in near 0 humidity in Utah, but Vegas is 0 humidity, so it is a lot easier. And I think you had a dehydrator, right? Yeah, you're one of the people with the dehydrator. I brought mine down for Corey and Kylie, and that helps. But like the thing is like I'm such a procrastinator that I've been training for competitions my whole life because I work really well under pressure, and I'm used to always getting my cakes done at the last minute, and that really helps. But like also living in this environment, like things dry freaky fast here, and it helps a lot. Like if you had to do that in a humid area, it would not work out the same.
But I think that was part of our problem because we live in high humidity. Like we live in extreme, right. We're in the middle of the ocean. So like our humidity is through the roof. So when we're practicing, and especially my partner who was doing the flowers, she's like, they're not working out the same way. I'm like, because we're in a different environment. You're just going to have to make it what it is and move on from it. But just like every time I looked over, she was still fidgeting with this rose, and I'm like, I'm gonna take the rose and throw it in the garbage in a minute. Like, I need you to move on. Like, come on, we're spending too much time here. But it's funny what you can accomplish when there's a clock involved. And I actually used to host Cara Andretta of Cara's Couture Cakes. She doesn't do cakes anymore, but she used to. We had a Caker's Escape pre-COVID that we had done. And it's funny because one of the things I did during the week we were together with the people that we brought into this retreat, we made a sculpted cake. And I used to set a timer. I used to show them, demonstrate what we were doing, and then I'd set a timer. I'm like, you have 5 minutes to do this piece for your showpiece. They're like, 5 minutes is not enough. I'm like, it is. I said, because if I gave you 20, you take 20 to do it. But if I give you 5, I can guarantee you're going to get it done in 5. Set the timer for 5 minutes. Sure enough. And everybody was amazed. They're like, I would have taken 20 to 30 minutes at home to do that. I'm like, that's the thing. Set yourself a clock. The second you set a timer, it's amazing what you can achieve when you're against the clock. And it works in your business. Like if you know that's the working well under pressure. I work and thrive under pressure. So this book, I'm not even joking. I had a year to write it. Mm-hmm. Every photo in it was taken. Everything was baked according to the recipe, and the photos were taken leading up to. Do you know when I actually wrote the book? 48 hours before the manuscript was due.
Are you serious?
I locked myself in my office, literally locked myself in my office. I slept on the couch in my office, and I wrote 75,000 words in 2 days. I sat down 100 times leading up to that to try and write. I knew what I wanted. I knew.
Yeah.
Hence, I was able to do it in 2 days. I knew exactly what everything was going to say. I knew what everything was going to be. And it wasn't, I could not force myself to sit down and put words to paper. Sat down 1,000,000 times. 48 hours before, locked myself in the office. 75,000 words later, I submitted my manuscript on time. And with 1,200 pictures, and said, okay, now it's your job to fix it from there. But and there was a lot of editing with editors. So it's really interesting going through the process, because the first people they sent that to edit to was someone who knows nothing about baking.
Yeah.
Because they wanted the perspective of somebody who knows nothing to ask the questions that are missing, the things we take for granted.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even think off the top of my head some of the things that she was asking me, but it was like, when she asked me, it was like, oh, I didn't know people didn't know that.
Yeah.
For example,
like,
turn the pan halfway through. Well, what does that mean? Or rotate.
Fold in the cheese.
Yeah, fold in the cheese. Like those, yeah. But I just played that for my students the other day.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So, but it's like, the simple things that we take for granted as just base knowledge, the general public doesn't know. And so it was interesting that that's who they sent the book to for the first edit, because she was able to ask the questions of like, well, what does that mean? Or, well, I got to this point, but now I don't really truly know what to do. So what's my next step? So we were able to edit it to really make it for anyone to be able to understand, which was really cool process.
Yeah. So I wrote a Science of Baking Cakes ebook. I did not try and get it printed, but I have a Science of Baking Cakes ebook where I talk about like how to bake using science and all that fun stuff, and it really deep dives into it. But I also have like 25 of my award-winning recipes in there,
right.
And really awesome. And I've sold like a handful of them, and I thought I was thorough. But like you said, like having perspective, I just like self-publish because I can update it anytime I want.
Yeah.
It's online. But I've had people come back and they're like, what do you mean by 1 stick of butter? And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean 1 stick of butter? And it's,
where is it?
Yeah, I love it. Oh my gosh. But like apparently in other countries, like they don't have 1 stick of butter. It's like 1 block. And so, yeah, you don't have that?
You can buy
That's
it,
so
but it's super expensive to get it in the sticks because it's imported. So for us, I don't have any handy because the fridges are over there, but it's a block. So it's the same amount of butter. It just comes in a full block. So it would be 1/4 of a block, right? The stick is 1/4 of a block. So we would cut it. So it's funny because this tattoo is actually to scale, but it works both for a stick and a block. So
That's
if it's
cool.
each notch is a tablespoon. If it's a block, each notch is 1/4 cup.
I love that.
I mean,
like it's something you don't even think about.
Yeah. So, and that was the thing. Like people are like, there's a little hint in there, like, caution, it could be hot because something came out of the microwave. I'm like, do we really need to put that in the book? And the publisher was like, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm like, so should we put that every time we take something out of the oven? Like, caution, it's hot. Like, I don't,
Right.
They're like, more so the microwave. People assume things coming out of the oven are hot, but when it comes to the microwave, they don't make that automatic assumption connection that things could be hot enough to burn them, right? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm not that type of person. But I guess if that's what you know from experience, I will take that as your valid word, then we should put that in there, right? But yeah, my mom tells a story, and it's really funny because I tell it to people all the time, and I'm like, this poor lady's going to get back to her. She's going to know I've chuckled on her behalf a few times. But I also published an ebook called Christmas Traditions before this book, and it was just my family's favorite Christmas cookies. So Christmas cookies are huge for us here in Newfoundland. I don't know if it is everywhere else, but like, and when I say Christmas cookies, I mean like your traditional platter cookies, like Nanaimo bars, brownies, squares, like lemon bars, chocolate chip cookies, all that kind of stuff. So just the traditional, what you would see on a platter at a party. And so I put together 25 of, my family's favorite recipes and e-published it. So one of my mom's friends bought it, and mom asked her, a few weeks later, like, hey, how are you enjoying the recipes, the book, whatever. And she's like, I'm loving it. She said, but I've never before had to flip a cookie halfway through.
Huh.
My mom is like,
oh no,
you flip a cookie halfway through. And my mom again is where I learned to bake, and so mom just kind of went with it and let her finish the story. She's like, yeah, I had to flip the cookies halfway through the bake, and so mom just like left. I was like, oh, that's interesting, but hope you enjoy the rest of the book, type of thing. And then went on and went home and read her copy, and she's like, it says to flip cookies halfway through, meaning just turn the tray around.
Pan, no.
But she literally flipped each individual cookie over on the tray. But it was just the wording was just to flip them, and making the assumption that everybody knew what that really meant, but they didn't. So it was, I use that as an example of just being very clear and direct about your, how you word things, and always assume that the person you're explaining to knows nothing. Right. Always enter with that assumption that they know nothing about what you're talking about, because chances are they don't, and they're not going to ask because they don't want to feel foolish, because it is such basic knowledge. And I really had to get over that teaching this, because I teach basic baking, like right from basics to advanced. The program's a year. We start with basics and we move into advanced after Christmas. But, I really had to adjust how I taught people, because I had to walk in the room assuming that people knew nothing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they don't. How many meals are in a teaspoon? Most people can't tell you. How many meals are in a tablespoon? How many tablespoons are in a cup? I know we don't do a lot of volume. We do a lot of weight by weight, but at the same time, you still need to know those volumetric measures and what a basic tablespoon is. And so we start right from the ground up when it comes to learning. But that's where the true understanding comes from. You need that base knowledge, or else you're not going to be successful. You may not see it now or see benefit or purpose to it now, but later on it certainly comes in handy. You're scaling a recipe and it's like you multiplied it by 4 and now all of a sudden you need 16 tablespoons. Are you going to measure out 16 tablespoons? Yeah. Right. You're going to measure out a cup, right? And that's just brain knowledge that I have tucked away that I can say, now that's a cup, Yeah. But yeah, so it's the fundamental of it and science behind it. And I think that's why I truly love baking, is just the science of the whole process.
Okay. I have some follow-ups for that. So for one, I did notice looking at this, that you went with the weighing things out in like cups and things like that, yep. Which I was not expecting, because you're in Canada. Because when I went to Canada, I was like, oh no, they use the metric system, and yep. America uses the imperial system, and yep. All of that, but also like we had to weigh everything. Yep. Which really stressed me out, and I was really worried about that. I'm like, I don't know the metric system, but yep. Now like I know both systems so well because I learned in Canada and came back, and now like I can convert back and forth really, really well, and it really helps. So I don't know if you had a comment on that, and then I had a follow-up question.
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple of reasons why. So first of all, Canada, we say we use the metric system, but we jump back and forth between metric and imperial in everything. Whether what we set our ovens to, our weather's in Celsius, our ovens are in Fahrenheit. We use, pounds and ounces. We use pounds and ounces for our weight, but it's not kilograms. So we're all over the place when it comes to that. But we buy our flour in 20 kg sacks. So we bounce back and forth. And it's funny because people don't understand that. But for me, for the book, the reason I went with volumetric measure instead of weight was because when a person who isn't familiar with the kitchen or baking sees weights, they panic. It adds stress. It adds a layer of stress to it that they're not used to. Because most people who are buying this book, it wasn't geared towards, people like you. Not, nothing negative about that. You have, you went to a cake school. You have your own science behind baking cake ebook. It's not necessarily built so much for the professional baker as it is the home baker and the person. Because in my opinion, anyone can bake. But you have to have a passion and love for it. And as cliche and as corny as it is, you have to have a love for it, because the secret ingredient truly is love. Because we can all take the same recipe, but we're not going to yield the same product, because we all add that little extra special bit of love in there. And that's what makes it what it is. But the whole idea was to make it approachable. I didn't want it to be something that people look at and go, nope, I'm not doing that because he's asking me to buy a scale and now I got to weigh stuff and it's not happening. I know I have this set of measuring cups that my grandma gave me and she showed me how to use those. I'm comfortable with that. So it's why I actually went that route. There was intention behind it. So everything in this book has been done with intention. The front and back of the book are washable. They're like a plasticky material.
I love that feature.
So they're actually a washable. That was a non-negotiable. The other non-negotiable for me was that it was a lay flat. And a lot of people don't know what that means. But the second that you break the spine on the book, it lays flat and doesn't flop back open. So the pages don't go, woo, when you're trying to read a page. Because as soon as you break that spine, it lays flat. So these were non-negotiables to me when I went to the publisher and said, this is what I want. I need you to make it happen. They were incredible. The book is laid out so that you have the base fundamental recipes at the beginning, and then throughout the book, I show you how to manipulate them to be something different. And so it all has intention. Everything was done with purpose and with intent. I show you how to do every recipe has a picture, because I hate buying a book that doesn't have a picture associated with the recipe. I want to see what I'm supposed to make, whether it looks like that in the end or not. I want to see what I'm supposed to be making. So every recipe has a picture associated with it. And then every recipe was made based, every picture, there's no Photoshop to any of the pictures. You actually look close enough on one of them, you can see the cracks in the custard, because it was set in my fridge for too long before we photographed it, and the custard started to crack, and I was like, I don't want you to edit it, just leave it. Because the photographer was like, I can edit that. I was like, nope, I want it to be photographed as it's pictured, as it was assembled. That's what it was, because that's what the general public are going to have when they go to make these things. So the cakes and cupcakes are both made. So I had lots of cake and cupcakes when I made this book. So like the cupcake version is here, the cake version is here. It outlines literally layer by layer. So I show you how to layer the cake. So it's like level the cake. So layer one is this, then this, then this. So it's structured so that every layer is showing you, as if you were to cut the cake in half and look at it, how it would be. And I actually have what I call my clip art version of this book. I actually drew most of these in colored pencil with all the layers, with all the things. And I have like a version of it that I kind of pre-did as this is what I want the book to look like. I have the handwritten version of it. But I just wanted people to find baking to be approachable, because some of these cakes don't look approachable. They look scary, but in a lot of places I'll say, you know what, store-bought's just fine. So, I have the pecan pie cake, where you throw 2 pecan pies inside the chocolate cake when you bake it. It's one of my favorites. I give you the recipe for pecan pie, but right next to it, it says, you don't have time to make them, go buy them. I try to keep it approachable for people so that it doesn't make baking scary, because it can be.
Yeah. I actually, what I really love here, and I didn't even notice before, like you said, there's the cake and the cupcakes. So that is really important to me. Something that like always really bugged me is when I worked at a cupcake shop. So the owner who ran that shop, she actually like used to do cakes out of her home, and she did everything with doctored box mix. And then she opened up the cupcake shop during the cupcake craze. She went on to win Cupcake Wars, and she made all of her cupcakes from scratch. And so because box mix doesn't bake well as cupcakes, it's too light, it's too airy, it's not dense enough, and it tends to be like flat. It doesn't work as well. Yeah. And but she never transitioned away from box mix. So as an employee, like working, and I was the one mixing the batters and the buttercreams at night and running the till. That was my job for the majority of the time I was there. And it drove me bonkers. Like it drove me absolutely crazy how we would have to make a vanilla cake batter, vanilla cupcake batter. We'd have to make the chocolate batter and chocolate cupcake batter. And so all of it, I think Red Velvet was the only one that we just did for both. Yeah. But having to make double batters because she didn't transition away from the box mix but like baked from scratch for the cupcakes. Her recipes were fantastic. It was delicious, but that was something that really stuck with me was, nope, I need one batter for everything. I'm very passionate about that. I'm like, one, because it's efficient and it needs to be versatile. Yeah. So I'm excited to try some of these recipes, and the fact that you're showing that it can be both, I am crazy passionate about that. I think in my book, I also talk about that. I'm like, your batter should be able to handle both, and it should be able to be stacked as a cake and not fall under its own weight. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so I do oil-based instead of butter-based, just because they're a more moist from scratch product. But at the same time, for me, it was when I had the shop, we were closed 2 days a week, but we were working. That was our prep day. And so contrary to what popular belief is, you can't refrigerate cake batter. Got some news for you. You can. Because the reason why I needed to build recipes that could be versatile was because we used to go in on our days off and make hundreds of liters of cake batter, chocolate and vanilla, and we'd throw them in the fridge. And every morning you got fresh baked cupcakes, even though all the batters are made for scratch, they were always still are. we baked them fresh every morning. So I literally built my entire, I can't even say empire because I don't have an empire. But my entire business off of these recipes, because they are the ones I would go in on the days off. We would make hundreds of liters of them, throw them in the fridge, and then we'd go in the next day. And if I wanted the beer and cheese one, which is in there somewhere, I would take the vanilla batter, I would add cheddar cheese to it, bacon bits, and some bacon fat, mix it in, and I'd bake it off. And then it got a cream cheese, bacon, cheddar icing on it. I could manipulate the base recipe easily. Actually, I think that one has beer in it as well, in the actual batter. So that one wasn't a great example. But, even being able to take those base recipes and manipulate them in such minimal ways to give you something completely different. Because one of my other big pet peeves is when people just take a vanilla cupcake and just stick a different filling in it and call it something completely different.
Yes.
The base cake is still vanilla. You haven't done anything to the vanilla cake. Yes, I have many of them that are like that. But for the most part, mine have add-ins and inclusions in the batter as well. Because if you're telling me it's a strawberry champagne cake, I want there to be champagne in the cake somewhere. So that one is in the book, and it's my most popular wedding flavor. Is the cake itself is all the milk is substituted out with champagne. So I let the champagne go flat, and then I substitute all the milk for champagne, and then I do a champagne soak over it. And then it gets a white chocolate buttercream with fresh strawberries inside as well, in the filling, as well as white chocolate ganache. So like that is one of my most popular wedding flavors now. But I take these, because the idea was when I opened the shop originally, it was a cupcake shop. I did nothing else but cupcakes and cakes. Yeah. But people are like, well, I want your peanut butter dream cupcake, but as a cake. So that one's not in the book. That one's a special secret. That was an accident cupcake, actually. Or I want your pink champagne cupcake, but I want it as a cake. And so I needed to be able to take these, what I call dessert flavors, basically, or dessert cakes, because they're not decorated to a theme, so to speak. They're decorated to their flavor. And I needed to be able to have something that I could do both with. And this is where I developed these recipes over the years. And I literally just had to put them into words for the general public. And then the how to decorate. So the Caker 101, part of my channel on YouTube. I've been very bad with YouTube in the last couple since I've moved. Caker 101 section is the how to actually do it. So most of these tips, tricks, and techniques I explain them by word, but also if you go online, there's a video associated with it on YouTube to show you how to do it as well. So that because some people are visual learners, some people aren't. So if you needed that actual visual aspect, you can go to YouTube and actually see the actual technique I'm talking about being done. And only that. So it's literally a tutorial just for that. Filling a piping bag is a specific how to fill a piping bag. How to dam a cake for soft filling. That's just the tutorial. There's nothing else before it and after. It's just how to dam the cake. So it's very specific one-off tutorials to match up with the book. Because you might know the rest of it. You don't want to sit through a 20-minute video. You just want to know this one particular 2-minute part. And so it's a 2-minute little tutorial that matches up with the 101. And the whole idea was just accessible for people, right? I just needed it to be easy, accessible, and approachable was the whole goal.
Okay, I love all of that. So it looks like we're both very passionate about that. Is that your batters need to be versatile, especially because I've done a lot of Food Network shows, and we're going to talk about this, our dietary restrictions. We're going to kind of transition into that, but I have over 60 food allergies and intolerances. I didn't go to a typical pastry school. I went to a cake school. I mostly learned cake baking. But I got casted for one of my first shows, which was Holiday Wars. And it wasn't until right before I flew out that I even found out that I was the pastry chef of the team. They only asked me if I knew isomalt. They never asked me if I knew baking. And I asked the rest of my teammates, I'm like, do you guys know how to bake? And they're like, no. And I think a lot of them use box mix. And I'm like, oh, but we're doing pastries. We're not doing just cakes. We're doing pastries. And I had the most experience when I really didn't have experience.
Right.
And so I got thrown into this, and it was so chaotic. I still had great feedback from the judges, and I've gone on to I've been on 6 TV shows now, and we're getting close to 20 episodes of TV, and I have been the baker of my team every single time. And I now consider myself a pastry chef on accident.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so important to be able to take these base recipes and to be able to manipulate them, especially on the fly. When when you have when you do competitions and they're like, okay, we need what was it, Holiday Wars, we had to do like a twist on a Thanksgiving uh, dinner or whatever, you know, like
Yeah.
some plate. And so for that, I took uh, my pumpkin recipe that I'd been working on so much, my pumpkin cake, and I just swapped out the pumpkin puree for sweet potato, and I added candied pecans, and I did all that, and I was able to create a, you know, like a, what do you call that? The
Sweet
sweet
potato
potato
pie.
dish.
Or yeah, sweet
It's the
potato
one
pie.
where
Or something like
yams,
that. Yeah,
candied yams.
candied yams. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was able to make a candied yams cake. So having, and I've repurposed that same recipe. I've swapped out the pumpkin for grated apples, and I was able to make a spiced apple cake for Santa's Baking Blizzard. So having that base recipe, like you're speaking my language here,
Yeah.
of being able to just swap it out, especially on the fly, or if you have a weird request, you know, from a client, and you can be like, yeah, I'll just take my lemon cake recipe, I'll swap it out for lime, I'll add ginger, and you know, I've had to do weird stuff like that, and I don't test it ahead of time, and I know it's going to turn out great.
And I do this, like, I tell students too, sorry to interrupt you, just about the base recipes.
Okay.
And I drive that home for students here is I want you to understand the basics. And no, you're not going to get into all the pastries that you might see floating around my page or things that you see me selling, but let it be known that you have everything in your repertoire to do that when you leave here. I teach you all the basic components of all these, like an entremet. We don't unfortunately get a chance to tackle entremets in the program. Okay, we're just so heavy down with everything that entremets aren't a thing we get to do. But we do mousses, we do berry fillings, we do cakes, we do cookies, we do glazes. So by the time we're done, you have all the knowledge and power to put together an entremet. It's just one step further. So, but understanding the basics of what an entremet is, first of all, and what it should include is all good and well. But now break it down. You know what that is. Like, let's talk shepherd's pie for a hot second. It's a whole different ballgame. But I remember when I was in nutrition and I did up a menu, and I had a youth who would refuse to eat shepherd's pie. Like, put the place up. Like, literally, I don't know if you know what shepherd's pie is. Going to explain it in a second. But
yeah.
So, like, refused. Like, straight up was like, absolutely not. I'm not eating that. I want something else. Like, put the whole place up before they even tried it, before it was even cooked. And so I sat down and I'm like, why don't you like shepherd's pie? Like, why do you have such an aversion to this food? Maybe there's something triggering that I don't know about, like, and I would love to chat with you about that. And it ultimately boiled down because they didn't know what it was. And when I explained that it's simply, you know, mashed potato, gravy-ish, a bit of vegetable, and some ground beef or meat of some sort, they were like, oh, I like all those things. I'll eat it. And that's all it took, was an explanation of what shepherd's pie was. And so it comes back to the basics of food. When we understand the basics and understanding of that an entremet is just, you know, it has to have these 4 base elements. Well, you know all of that when you leave the kitchen with me. You just have to put them together in a different way. You know, so students get hung up on that. Well, how come we haven't learned that exact thing that you did on your Facebook last week? Well, you did. You did learn it. You just got to open your mind up to say, okay, well, actually, it's just a lemon curd, and it's just a fruit filling, and it's just a meringue. But, you know, you can do that. You know all of that. Stop focusing on just what the recipe says. So having versatile recipes that I can switch around. You know, Spring Baking Championship was the same thing. I had to make something with mushrooms, goat cheese, and breadsticks, dried breadsticks one time. That was the challenge. Yeah, it worked out. I did great. But, like, you have to be able to manipulate these base recipes and understand the science behind, if I take out one thing, what can I add? What do I have to add back in to make it work? You know, we had to swap out white sugar for agave, which you can't do one for one. So knowing the science behind doing that kind of thing, it is very important.
Yeah.
So
kind of going off of that, like, I went to go make, well, I don't remember what it was. I went to go make a recipe. Oh, I think it was a pumpkin bavarois. So I had a bavarois recipe that was supposed to be passion fruit. And I'm like, well, I think I should be able to swap out that puree for pumpkin puree. It's, you know, a little bit thicker, but I think I'm going to try to do that. And that was like while I was filming a show. Yeah. And so I was able to make a pumpkin bavarois, but as well as that, they didn't have gelatin sheets. And typically you have gelatin sheets, you have to soak it in water, and then you have to incorporate it in a specific way. They only had gelatin powder. And so like I had to figure out the conversion of, okay, well, this many sheets is going to equal, this many teaspoons or tablespoons of gelatin powder, but also where I incorporated and how I incorporated it was completely different. And again, that was on one of my first shows where I was like, I'm not a pastry chef, but I found out like, oh my gosh, like I'm good at this. I was terrible at chemistry. I failed chemistry in high school, but now I'm obsessed with baking chemistry, and I'm able to swap things out on the fly, and it's addicting. It's so fun.
No, and it is. It's same thing. The very first challenge, again, back when I was super new to baking and did spring baking championship, the first challenge we had was to create an ombre cake, a naked ombre cake, incorporating an herb as the special feature. So I got parsley. Parsley is not something you ever feature. Parsley is something you garnish a plate with. Yes. But that was my featured herb. And I ended up walking away winning that challenge. That cake is actually in the book. But it's understanding flavor. One of my other favorite things, other than swapping things out and reinventing recipes, is flavor profiles and adding things where they shouldn't be added. And combining flavors that you wouldn't think of. And the Flavor Bible is really good for that. So if you don't have a copy of the Flavor Bible, get yourself one. I have to buy a new one because I've lost mine. But it's an incredible, we'll call it an encyclopedia / dictionary of ingredients. So you basically, have you heard of the Flavor Bible, or have you seen it?
Yes, I know of it, yeah.
Yeah, so like basically if I wanted, so strawberries was one of my ingredients. Now I'm going to open up the strawberries. I'm going to read a list of like 40 things that pair well with strawberry, and I'm going to pick the weirdest one. Yeah. And I'm going to use it. And then I'm going to go to that weird one, and I'm going to cross-reference that weird one somewhere else in the book and look through and be like, okay, now I'm going to pick a third flavor that's going to highlight both of them that actually aligns up with both strawberries and the weird flavor. Strawberries and basil work great. It's in the book as well. Under my strawberry shortcake, I put basil in the strawberry filling, and cardamom. Strawberry, basil, and cardamom, great together.
Yeah. Actually won with a strawberry basil cake last season on Halloween Wars.
Amazing. Yeah. So strawberry and basil are great together. Strawberry rose. So like I boiled roses down right in my strawberry jam.
Ooh.
Yeah. Take roses. I left them in fresh water for a couple of days to get as much of the chemicals out as I can. And then literally boiled them down right into the jam, pulled some of them out, but then pureed some of them up into the jam. So you get the rose flavor. The parsley one, the pairing for the filling was a lemon peppercorn, pink peppercorn filling to go with the parsley, because parsley's peppery, right? So I had to pull pepper from somewhere to make it all work. So it's just being able to have fun with flavors and manipulate flavors is also really cool to me, because it's not what everybody's doing. Everyone's doing chocolate and vanilla and red velvet, right? Yeah. And I can't do that. Someone's like, I want just a basic vanilla wedding cake. I'm like, oh, well, okay, I can do it, but like, can I put something else in there? I want a chocolate wedding cake. Okay, well, I'm going to make it chocolate, and I'm going to do a chocolate liquor soak, and I'm going to do a chocolate buttercream and chocolate ganache and probably some chocolate pieces because it needs texture. So like, I'm going to add chocolate as many times as I can, but it's not going to be just chocolate cake. So it's kind of what I love to do. And my wedding cakes are anything but boring on flavor. They look great on the outside, but also taste great on the inside, because that's also very important.
Yeah. Can you talk about your dietary restrictions, because that is really important for a lot of people. I'm very vocal about mine, and I've had people, come up to me like expos and things, and they're like, wow, like you're such an inspiration. And I've cried with people over their dietary restrictions, or I had this one lady who said that her son had, I can't remember, some extreme health condition where he was very limited on his diet. And she was saying like, she's like, seeing you thrive despite like your limitations gives me hope that he's going to be okay. And like, we both just cried. So like, I know it's really important for people. I'm going to get emotional here. So like, I would love for you to talk about that aspect of, you wrote a whole book.
I did.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But you don't even eat a lot of what you make. And so can you just explain that a little bit better?
So it's unfortunate, because I didn't want to have to change careers again. And because I do truly love what I'm doing. And that was the hardest part for me, was I either have to find a way to live this lifestyle and continue in the career that I'm, like I said, from the beginning of this, every time I tried to get away from it, I got pulled back in, right? This industry kept pulling me back because I have a true passion for it. So I do eat a vegan or plant-based diet outside of the kitchen. And I don't even love eating the things that I make inside the kitchen because they don't make me feel good. So coming from a nutrition background, I always ate a decent diet, or what I thought was decent. And I thought I felt good. But I was on a couple medications and I just really wasn't feeling great. So I was doing a lot of reading and research on, what can I do to change my diet, or how can I, make adjustments so that I can come off some of these meds, or I can feel better than what I do. And everything led me back to vegan or plant-based. So this has been 8 or 9 years now, where I just stepped back and I said, I'm going to give myself 6 months. 6 months is a good solid effort to say, if this dietary change is actually going to be beneficial to me or it's not. And so I consulted with my doctor. I said, hey, this is my plan. Here's why I want to do it. We did all the vital, the blood checks and all the make sure everything was good before I even went down that route. And he looked at me and said, now listen, if you're going to do this, you can't tinker. It's not like one day I'm going to eat cheese and one day I'm not. You need to go all in, headstrong, and actually buckle up and do it. And I did. And here we are 8, 9 years later. And again, what I thought I felt good. The reason I never went back was because A, I came off 2 meds. B, I dropped 36 pounds of unnecessary weight within 6 weeks.
Serious?
Yeah. And I did it in a healthy way. It wasn't even unhealthy weight. It was 36 pounds of fat that I was able to keep off right off the bat within 6 weeks, gone. I was sleeping better. My skin was better. My digestive system was better. Everything about my health completely shifted. So at the end of the 6 months, I reevaluated and I said, why would I go back? Why would I go back to feeling miserable? And this was the biggest challenge for my family, my wife included, and she still to this day talks about it, that she grieved me switching to a vegan diet. It was hard for her because our whole life as we knew it changed. We couldn't go to the same restaurants. We couldn't go to the places we enjoyed. We couldn't do the things we always did because I changed the way I was eating. And I changed the things that I enjoyed. I mean, don't get me wrong. Love a good steak, love a good pound of bacon, love all those things, but my body doesn't love it. And it made me feel miserable on the best of days. And even eating it in a small amount. I had someone look at me a couple months ago and go, do you ever just cheat and eat, a steak? I was like, it's not cheating if it hurts me. Mm-hmm. I don't look forward to that as a cheat meal if I know I'm going to be in pain and agony for the next 2-3 days after. Why would I do that to myself? Because this person is celiac, but every now and again will eat a piece of bread because they miss that bread. I'm like, I miss bacon. I miss a good steak, especially barbecue season. But I would never put my body back through that because I know how miserable it makes me feel. So, I've ran catering companies while being vegan and not as vegan. I owned a couple catering companies. I consulted with catering companies. I have the bakery, and I teach pastry arts. So it involves all those things. But I had to learn to adapt my behaviors to my diet. So I got to the point in cooking that I could adjust the seasoning by smell alone. I could tell you what something needed just by smelling it. And people make fun of me when they get a meal. I'll be like, can I smell it? I'm like, sure. I just need to know, because your olfactory is all connected, right? When you eat, your smell is involved with actually tasting things. So I can almost taste it by smelling it. So this one lady I was consulting with, she ran a catering company where they were doing pre-made meals. And after so many days of being in the kitchen with her, she's like, why do you keep smelling the food? I'm like, well, because I can't eat it. Like I can't eat it to see what it needs for seasoning. So I had to learn to smell it, or I had to learn to season through smell. And so it just got to the point where she would just stick things under my nose and go, what does it need? And I'd tell her, and she'd put it in, and she'd taste it. She's like, how'd you know that? I was like, it was that or change careers again. And I really couldn't change careers. I had to adapt to where I am. So the days that I do have to grade students, because I have to eat their stuff, I do take a med to try and calorie balance some of the body issues that I'll have. I don't love doing it, but I only grade once a week for that reason. So they have to hold everything until Thursdays. Thursday mornings, I do my grading, and then I'm miserable for the rest of the day. But it was that or change jobs, really. So I kind of had to learn to live with it. I haven't touched meat like eggs, milk, and creams because of baking. I have certainly tasted over the last 8 years, but I haven't touched meat in over 8 years.
Wow.
So any animal,
really hard.
No gelatin, no, like for work I do, but I won't go eat gelatin at home. I won't, because my body just does not accept animal products. It cannot digest it properly.
Can you do fish gelatin?
I've never, well, I can do agar. Like I said, I've done seaweed gelatin. I've never
Agar,
tried.
yeah.
If it comes from fish, I'm going to go out of the no because any other animal byproduct has not worked out for me.
That's
So,
crazy.
yeah. So really hard in the food industry.
I can relate.
And I do love food. That's the thing. But I'm to the point now in my life that if I was told I never had to eat again, because food is just life sustaining, I would be okay with that. I've lost my joy for eating, unfortunately. I'm not going to lie, until I find a really good vegan restaurant, which I did find one in Vegas. I can't remember the name of it now. It
So now you have a reason to go back.
Right, just for the tacos, yeah.
Just for that.
It was a taco place, and when I went out and I was reading the menu, it just read as a normal menu, and I was like, "Hey, can you do this but vegan?" He's like, "Everything on here is vegan." And I was like, "Well, now I don't know what to order. I want everything on the menu." And I ordered like 4 or 5 different types of tacos, and I ordered nachos, and I just ordered so many things, and I sat and ate all of it, and I was so happy. But finding good food, like I do enjoy good food when I don't have to make it myself, but finding good vegan food is tough.
Yeah. I would say like my diet is all over the place. Like that's a long history. But when you're talking about smelling things, I actually didn't know that was a thing because I've always had like an extremely dull sense of smell my whole life. And something had to be like right under my nose and like maybe I could smell it. And, like I've struggled with that until recently. But I had a teammate on a show who was like, oh, just go into the pantry and see what smells good together, because we're baking on a fly. And I was like, that's a thing?
Yeah.
You guys can just smell like what smells good together, like, and it'll taste good together. Like that blew my mind because I just like, I
could smell for salt at one point.
What?
I could smell for salt. I could tell you if the dish needed salt just by smell.
Really?
Yeah, because I couldn't eat, and I refused to put myself through the misery of eating it.
Right.
To sample it, so I had to figure it out. But yeah, I could smell it, especially if it was a meat dish. I could smell it and I could tell you if it needed, because salt brings out the meat smell, because it pulls the moisture out, right? So the more salt, the more moisture it pulls, the more you'll smell the meat. So I could tell you just by smell if it needed more salt.
That blows my mind. I didn't even know that was possible. Like when I tell you the dullest sense of smell, except for now, like I went through a period where I had prosmia. I was a COVID long hauler, so it distorted my sense of smell and taste. Everything smelled and tasted like rotting dead animals with a touch of chemicals. Wow. I dealt with that for a year and a half, and it's my 3-year anniversary of being fixed. But like it was like I went from not smelling anything to suddenly everything smelled rotten, and it was so strong and pungent, and I'm like, I don't have a sense of smell really. Like, why is everything so strong?
Yeah.
And it really destroyed my life. But then I got it fixed, and I also started using and I had to do smell training. So I got injections done. It rebooted my nervous system, and basically like I had to smell train over the next couple months for everything to smell and taste normal again. And so now I'm in the habit of everything that I go to eat, I'm constantly like taking smell, like I have to sniff it first just to make sure that like it smells normal and to remind myself what it's supposed to be, and then I can eat it. And so now I'm in the habit, and I started doing like a saline spray every single day. And now I can breathe out of my nose for like the first time in my life, but I have a sense of smell. Yeah. It heightened my sense of smell. So everything smells normal now, but I don't recognize smells. Right. Like I have a hard time. Like I'm getting better at it, but sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I'm smelling. I don't know what's happening. And it's overwhelming for my senses. So this is like a new world for me to like have a sense of smell. That's fascinating.
You're going to adapt yourself to, because you're going to get hyperfixated on it, and you're going to be like, I need to know what everything is. But it became a necessity more than anything, right? It was like, do I really put my family through changing careers again and try and get out of this field, or do I just make it work? And I've just learned to make it work. And so it's great. It's worked for me, but it does make people laugh. And it's funny to be in the food industry when you can't eat 90% of what you make. So I love when we do the dietary course, because I hoard all the food and all the vegan stuff we make, and I freeze it, and I get to snack on it all year, because I don't bake at home. I do it so much in my day to day that I'm like, no. So if anybody bakes at home, it's my wife. She bakes with the kids. I don't. For the longest time, we moved into the house that we're in right now. When I finally moved the bakery out of the house, I moved it out of the house. There wasn't a set of measuring cups. There wasn't a set of measuring spoons. There wasn't anything, because I was like, nope, I am not baking outside.
And you're not getting sucked into
work.
that. Yeah.
And anyway, we finally slowly brought stuff back into the house so that my wife could bake with the kids. But I didn't do it because I was so in it all day long and I didn't want to do it at home. Yeah, so I am colorblind. I red green, and so colors are challenging, and I can color match all day long because I'm matching what I see. So if I'm matching what I see, you're going to get what you asked for. But if you ask me for a color, my wife was always the consultant on that. I'd be like, hey, babe, is this the color it's supposed to be? Because I'm terrible for it. I'm really, really bad at colors because I'm colorblind. So cake decorating was always a joy. But I'm good at it and I enjoy it. And it's just I had to, again, learn to work with it. So I had to bring people in and be like, I need you to let me know if this is the right color. Or I'd take pictures of stuff. It was super late at night, knowing my cake friends would be up. I'd take a picture and send it like, is this the color I'm looking for?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I have to rely on other people, my family, where it's like they're my professional taste testers. And I trained my sister over the years. She loves it. But basically, like, I would have her sample things and she'd be like, oh, this is so delicious, I love it. And I'm like, no. And like, I would try some things next to her if I could. And I'd be like, like it actually lacks flavor and it needs more salt and it needs this and it needs texture. And because like I would taste things side by side if I could, and trained her in that way over the years, like she's become very good at it and she's able to completely like help me. And unfortunately, she just found out she's allergic to corn, like really bad, and I'm really allergic to corn, and that's in everything. So she hasn't been able to be my professional taste tester as much lately. But, and like a chocolate is bad for her. She has like really damaged vocal cords, so chocolate actually makes the vocal cord, like she'll lose her voice sometimes. It's so bad. But anyways, like I still, my family, they've gotten all better at sampling things and giving me the feedback I need, so that I a lot of times have never tasted things that I have made.
It's really funny that you had family who were like praising everything. My wife was the polar opposite. If you ever want an honest feedback, give it to my wife.
Oh, I love that.
She's like, nope, no, that's a hard no. Like she will straight up tell you what is a no, what is a yeah, what works. Like I'll bring stuff home from the students when they bake, because we sell off all their bakes once a week
cool.
to the community. So it's a fundraiser. So it's just a pay what you can, take what you'll eat situation. So it's all by donation. We open the doors to the community. We got to bake it anyway. And so then I'll also bring home some stuff to the family, and she'll be like, oh, who made this? And I'm like, I have no idea, because I just take it from the tray. She'll be like, oh, it was not good. I hope you didn't pass. They didn't get a good grade on it. Or like, oh, this was amazing. I hope they got a great grade. I'm like, I don't know who made it. And I also have to take into account that they're learning. Like some of the stuff might be overcooked. Some might be slightly undercooked, over-seasoned, under-seasoned. Like we have to take some of that into consideration as a learning environment. But yeah, she's brutally honest for feedback. She would, from day one, will tell you, if I ever need to be humbled, I take it to her. I'm like, here, what do you think?
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's crazy.
Yeah, she's this. But that comes back to the support system, right? Because again, she doesn't want to see me put something out, or like whether it be a cake design or whether it be a flavor or whatever. She doesn't want to see it flop because I think it's great, but really someone's going to be like, oh, what the hell is that? She's giving honest feedback, and that truly is a support system at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. Well, my husband will eat anything. Like he's like a garbage can. Like he'll eat things that fall on the floor, and I'm like, that's disgusting. So like he's not picky whatsoever, but he is such a naturally gifted artist. Like I will show him something and I'm like, just give me validation. And he's like, well, you could have done this better. I'm like, no, just praise it. Just tell me it's good. And so like he's always giving me like, he's brutally honest when it comes to artistic things. We probably do have to wrap up here, but I want you to talk about your book just a little bit more. So I bought this in person from you, but if people are interested in following you, we need to know what platforms you are, where they can find you. I can leave links down below as well. But just tell us where we can find you and what we can buy from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, life is hectic. So I'm on the most lame social network of all of them right now. It's Facebook. Things happens, we get hacked in other platforms. And I just haven't had the opportunity to try and get them back, or the energy really at this point. So Facebook right now under Happy Belly Cakery. So Happy Belly is the name of my actual bakery, cake, which is where that name comes from. You can buy the book direct from me. Tariffs and mailing and all that stuff is a bit tangly right now, so I don't know exactly the cost of shipping, but if you want a signed copy and get directly from me, you can purchase directly from the publisher itself, which is breakwaterbooks.com. And it was on Amazon. The last I checked, there was one copy left on Amazon. I don't know if they've restocked since then, but there was a copy left. So you can find the book there. You can find my daily happenings within the bake shop, on Happy Belly Cakery. I do have YouTube, which is Man vs. Cake, so that's where that personality comes from. And maybe stay tuned for a Man vs. Cake presents Happy Belly, the something else book later on in life. But for now, we have the cake book. The adventures are all over the place. I'm all over the place, so I would love for you to follow along. Like I said, right now it's Facebook, but I do try to keep everybody updated there and see where the next adventure takes us.
Okay, well, maybe if you're interested, if you want to add a tutorial to my website, I have a space for a la carte classes where other instructors can sell classes. So, there could be more opportunities coming your way, and you are willing to jump on anything, so there might be more coming.
Who told you that? did 2 hours ago Aaron tell you that? But
yes. But I just think it was so fantastic talking to you today. I really appreciate you sitting down with me. I love meeting people in the industry, and when I have all these ideas and things that I'm trying to do, all these projects, and so when people say yes to my crazy antics, like that just warms my itty bitty heart. So I appreciate you taking the time because you're busy and you have a lot going on, and yes, I am very impressed. This has just been a great experience. Any closing notes there?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to, present on your platform. Like I said, it's really hard to, in a nutshell, tell people what I do in a career because I have so many sidelines and jobs and juggling all the things. But a lot of caffeine is the only way to really do it. Yeah. But no, I truly appreciate it. I am generally up for any opportunity. Remember the 3 questions I have to ask. But otherwise, if opportunity knocks, I tend to take it. And just spreading the love of baking, really. And I love the joy, because people are like, you ooze it. I'm like, yeah, but that's because I love what I do. But the old adage does not hold true. If you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. We work more days in our life than ever before. But I do still truly love it. I still love the smell of a loaf of bread baking. I still love the basic chocolate chip cookie. All those things still bring me so much joy. And that's how you truly found what you're passionate about.
I love that. Yeah, seeing you at IBIE, for a second, I'm like, I think I recognize you, while you're doing the live competition. And then I saw your book that you had on display, and I was like, oh, I recognize the book and the logo. And I was like, okay, I know this person. And so, yeah, it was really great getting to know you, and hopefully we will stay connected. Thank you for joining my new Haute Sugar Collective podcast, where I interview people like you and get to know your stories and, just see what you have going on, and the way that a lot of us are, especially now post-COVID, a lot of people are trying to carve a new direction in this industry, because I think a lot of people took a break during COVID and then they came back after and wanted to hit the ground running and get back to normal. And then they realize that normal is no longer what works for them. And I'm seeing a lot of people trying to shift into new directions and trying to see what is out there that they can pursue outside of just taking custom cakes.
Just on that same note, post-COVID was part of the reason why I haven't fought for my social media back, because I truly realized that I was sick of chasing the next viral video. Yes. And I don't know, or the next viral post or the next viral technique. I was sick of constantly trying to feed and fill that area of social media, because it was taking the joy away from what I do, because I was just seeking validation from people to say, oh, that's a cool technique, when most of them are just old techniques that became new again because the right person posted it. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because some people thrive in that environment, but I was just getting sick of that environment. I needed that shift in careers and in trajectories to say that's not where I need to focus my time, which is why I haven't really fought to get Instagram back so hard. Like, it's kind of like, I kind of like my little niche market here in Facebook world where I can kind of still control what's going on. And I don't need that viral video to make me feel, not saying it doesn't make you feel amazing, but I think is that constantly seeking, am I doing good enough content to be the next viral video, is where the stress came in. And I didn't want that added stress. We have enough stress in our life that I couldn't.
I love that. You've set boundaries, and I hope that encourages other people to set boundaries and find a new normal for themselves and carve a new path as well outside of a bakery or outside of custom cakes. So anyone who's listening, Haute Sugar Collective podcast, you can find me on YouTube. We have the video podcast on YouTube, as well as it's going to be on Spotify, Apple, and my website. So I'm Emerlie and Miller with Neo Sugar Rush, and thank you so much, Aaron. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Happy belly, happy life.
Yeah.